Chapter 858. This wasn't some sort of backlash at all. The martial cultivator Lin didn't die at all. At the same time, this Void Revolution realm martial cultivator was standing right in front of the world entrance. He was patiently explaining the greatness of the eternal true God to Shanu. But Xiegu Hong and the white-haired old man didn't know that. Xiegu Hong and the white-haired old man had never seen the Soul Shrieker, nor did they know what the eternal abyss was, nor had they ever seen a cultivator endlessly resurrecting after death. So even with their cultivation, they couldn't discover such unimaginable things from a dead person. That was why they mistakenly believed that the martial cultivator Lin was dead. He died from the backlash of the ancient mirror. Then, what kind of secret was hidden inside the ancient mirror that the martial cultivator Lin didn't hesitate to use his life to create a lie for Xiegu Hong and the white-haired old man to see? Gu Qingshan glanced at the white-haired old man. Nothing unusual. He doesn't seem to know anything. If that's the case, Gu Qingshan sighed. For the sake of humanity's future, fellow Tao Seeker Lin was willing to sacrifice his own life. Truly a role model for all of us, Xiegu Hong and the white-haired old man both nodded in agreement. Gu Qingshan asked, what kind of secret did he discover? Xiegu Hong handed the bronze mirror to Gu Qingshan and spoke in a disappointed tone. Fellow Tao Seeker Lin used his life to erase the seal on the ancient mirror. Sect Master Zhao, you can take a look at the secret inside with your own eyes. Gu Qingshan received the bronze mirror. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. Item: Mirror of Light and Shadow Recording. Description: during the bygone era, humanity used this artifact to record certain secrets. The two lines of glowing text disappeared. Faint images began to appear on the mirror. The desolate race was only created out of convenience by the bygone era humanity. Later on, the bygone era humans discovered that a few simple tasks could be done by the desolate monsters, so they gradually gave them more power and abilities. And then there was the secret of the birth of the divinities, a failed experiment. A single combat soul artifact that had exceeded its expiration date. The secret of the desolate race and the divinities was displayed in front of Gu Qingshan. These secrets were completely true and were exactly the same as the information that Gu Qingshan knew. In fact, the scene of the two races harvesting the humans was even more detailed and vivid under the light and shadow. Strange. Why did he do this? Sect Master Zhao, do you think the information recorded in this bronze mirror is real? Xiegu Hong asked. Gu Qingshan smiled bitterly and said, it couldn't be any more true. Xiegu Hong nodded. I've read it many times, combined with a few important historical events. I found that this answer is true. The white-haired old man sighed and said sorrowfully, the fate of our humankind is too humiliating. Xiegu Hong and Gu Qingshan fell silent. The white-haired old man took out a tortoise shell and began to carefully observe the patterns on it. He began to chant softly. Xiegu Hong asked, Old Meng, what are you calculating? The white-haired old man stopped chanting and replied, this is the burial ground of the bygone-era humans. There must be something here that can help us change the current situation and change the fate of humanity. His expression was both sorrowful and resolute. I want to find that thing. Xiegu Hong scowled. You can't. To predict the chaotic tides earlier, you've already expended a portion of your vitality. You can't calculate the fate of humanity again. As a Void Wanderer realm great cultivator, it wasn't a big deal for the old man to expend a portion of his vitality to predict the chaotic tides. But now, he wants to calculate the location of the treasure that can change the fate of humanity. This level of calculation had already surpassed the range of normal divination techniques. As it was related to the changes of the entire world, it wasn't something that the white-haired old man could handle. Gu Qingshan also hurriedly stopped him. You're crazy if you do that. Even if you find the powerful treasure, you'll still die here. The white-haired old man continued. Sect Master Zhao, didn't you also want to use your life to avenge the sect? Xiegu Hong hurriedly said, but Sect Master Zhao wouldn't make a meaningless sacrifice. You definitely can't perform this divination, or you'll die. If I can find a way to fight against the divine race and desolate race, then I can die in peace. Don't stop me. This is my final choice, the white-haired old man declared. Foom! An intense gust of wind erupted from the old man's body, causing his white hair and beard to flutter in the wind. He formed a complicated hand seal with both hands and loudly declared, "Burn all of my vitality. Calculate the method to defeat the enemy." The tortoise shell in his hand began to crack and crumble, turning into nothingness. From the looks of it, the divination technique had been completed. There's no turning back. The old man is really going to give up his life. Xie Guhong and Gu Qingshan exchanged glances, both feeling a sense of sorrow. The old man hovered in the air and flew towards the next warp formation. He loudly declared, "The mysteries of the underworld had descended upon me, allowing me to sense a treasure. Quickly follow me. I can't hold on for much longer." Xie Guhong and Gu Qingshan quickly followed him. The three of them stepped onto the warp formation and disappeared from this floor. The 17th floor, the 18th floor, the 19th floor, the 33rd floor. The old man finally stopped here. At this point, his presence was already very weak. His eye sockets were sunken in. His complexion was haggard, seemingly on the verge of death. With Xie Guhong and Gu Qingshan's help, he struggled to reach a treasure. It was a long piece of dark violet rock that was about 5 meters long. "This is it," the old man weakly said. Xie Guhong and Gu Qingshan both looked at the rock. The old man grabbed the rock and tried to squeeze it, but the old man seemed to have no strength left, unable to even break this rock. "I'll do it," Gu Qingshan said. He squeezed it, then shook it. The entire rock crumbled into dust, revealing the 2 jade tags inside for the three of them to see. The old man jumped forward to grab the 2 jade tags, then coughed up blood. He seemed to have reached the end of his rope. "Thank you, Palace Master." The old man breathed heavily and called out, "I'm here." Xie Guhong supported the old man and spoke in a low voice. The old man took a deep breath and tried to maintain his voice. "I've divined it. This is the forging method for the twin swords heaven and earth." "Twin swords heaven and earth?" Xie Guhong doubtfully asked. "Yes, the twin swords heaven and earth, specifically used to slay divinities and desolate monsters." At this point, the old man began to bleed profusely from his orifices, but he still insisted. "These 2 jade tags are made of a very unique material that has never been seen before. To forge the twin swords, you need to fuse these 2 jade tags into the swords. Remember." "I'll remember," Xie Guhong sincerely replied. At this point, the old man suddenly became a bit more spirited, his face becoming a bit flushed. Xie Guhong and Gu Qingshan exchanged glances. They both understood that the old man had reached his final moments. The old man took another deep breath and spoke. "Promise me. You must forge the twin swords heaven and earth and change the course of humanities." He didn't finish his words, but he couldn't make a single sound. Xie Guhong cut in. "Don't worry, this Xie Guhong will definitely do it." The old man appeared gratified and slowly closed his mouth. His head suddenly tilted, and his entire body sank into the arms of the 2 people. He was dead. Xie Guhong and Gu Qingshan didn't say anything for a while. They supported the old man's body on both sides, feeling a heavy sense of sorrow in their hearts. A while later, Xie Guhong stood up first. He carefully put the 2 jade tags away and spoke with a lonely expression. "Sect Master Zhao, have you chosen treasure yet?" Gu Qingshan froze for a split second. He immediately replied, "I've already done so." Xie Guhong continued, "I haven't, so I'm going to head down to the next floor. Once I find what I want, I'll leave this place immediately." "Leave immediately?" Gu Qingshan asked. Xie Guhong resolutely replied, "Yes, I have to return. From this moment on, I can no longer take any more risks. I have to bring the forging method of the twin swords heaven and earth back to humanity." Gu Qingshan was still hugging the old man's body inside. "You can go. I'll stay with him for a bit longer. Don't worry about me." Xie Guhong nodded and clasped his fist. "Take care." He flew onto the warp formation and left right away. Gu Qingshan was stunned for a while. He gently placed the white-haired old man's body on the ground, still holding one of his hands. For the sake of humanity, what a heroic and noble act, Gu Qingshan muttered. He silently took out a black scepter from the void of space. The skull with a sharp horn on top of the scepter suddenly moved. A red glow appeared from the skull's eye sockets. The moment that would cause all the dead to tremble in fear had arrived. The corpse on the ground seemed to have noticed something and abruptly gave off a purple glow. At the very next moment, it gave off an overwhelming presence, as if it had come back to life. This was a transformation that had broken through the boundary of life and death. Unimaginable, unexplainable, and even more unexplainable. This was the power of an eternal, true God. But Gu Qingshan was still holding its hand. Lightning of life, dream jolt, dream jolt. After being touched by your lightning spirit energy, the target's consciousness will enter a temporary dreamscape with the lightning, then lose control of their body until 5 seconds later. Note, this is the advanced thaumaturgy of the uncontrollable, stiff, and severance thaumaturgy. No living being would be immune to it. The old man couldn't move at all. The purple glow on his body instantly disappeared. The spell was interrupted. In just a few seconds, he turned from a living person back into an undead body. Gu Qingshan stabbed the Devil King Warden rod into the corpse's chest. The corpse let out a series of desperate screams. It was desperately struggling, trying to come back to life. But as soon as it tried to summon the purple glow, a sword cut through its head. The old man turned back into a corpse. The sword didn't even bother to move. Instead, it directly cut through his throat, cutting off his head again and again. If you try to move again, I'm going to use the scepter, Gu Qingshan muttered. A crimson glow appeared on the Devil King Warden rod. Sensing the power of the scepter dissipating eternally, the corpse froze, no longer daring to move. How impressive, Gu Qingshan commented. Faint killing intent began to exude from his body. The white-haired old man sensed the murderous aura and begged hysterically, "Spare my life. Spare my life. I don't want to die." Gu Qingshan's voice slowly became playful. "You are an eternal being, but you can sense the eternal death from my scepter." "That's right. I know. This is the presence of the Samsara, Huang Quan realm." Saying so, the old man suddenly grabbed the Devil King Warden rod with both hands, trying to do something. But both of his hands instantly exploded into a bloody mist as he screamed in agony. This was the Devil King's scepter, one of the 3 supreme powers of the Huang Quan realm. How could a lowly undead like him ever touch it? Gu Qingshan held the scepter, lowered his head, and silently stared at the dead man in front of him. "Do you want to live?" he asked. The white-haired old man nodded. In reality, if he didn't want to live eternally, why would he ever betray his past? "You want to live?" "Very well." Gu Qingshan lightly turned the scepter. The old man's chest was pierced through by the scepter, so he immediately felt intense pain. "Ayayua, spare me. I beg you. I'll do anything you want me to do," the old man shouted. Gu Qingshan stopped what he was doing and felt a bit relieved. From Siegu Han's point of view, that martial cultivator's death was real, and the information in the mirror was also real. Even I couldn't find a single flaw in that information, so your death was also real. No wonder Siegu Han was able to find the jade tags to forge the twin swords Heaven and Earth, and spent so much time and effort to forge them. No wonder the desolate race didn't try to stop humanity from forging the twin swords Heaven and Earth, no matter the time, no matter the time. The white-haired old man didn't quite understand. Gu Qingshan shook his head. Chapter 859. The old man laid on the ground, moaning in pain for being pierced by the Devil King Warden rod. He tried his best to control his voice and spoke. "You want to know the secret of the twin swords Heaven and Earth?" Gu Qingshan replied. "Of course, that's exactly why I'm here." The old man stared closely at Gu Qingshan and gritted his teeth. The eternal true God had planned for a very long time to reach this point, yet you want to ruin it in my hands? "I'll definitely be devoured by the true God after this. If you don't tell me, then die right now," Gu Qingshan said without hesitation. The Devil King Warden rod glowed with crimson and darkness. They weaved together to form a strange cluster of light that slowly spread towards the old man's body through the rod. This was the scepter's sole dissipation ability. Dead people who were devoured by the Devil King Warden Rod would only become nutrients for the Devil King Warden Rod, unable to revive. Kikik, a series of noises came from inside the Devil King Warden Rod, as if it was preparing to eat. The old man trembled uncontrollably. As a dead person, he couldn't suppress the fear he felt when facing the Devil King Warden Rod. All of a sudden, the old man broke down and cried, "I'm only a minion. How could I possibly know what the true God wants to do? I beg you, spare my life. I'll even become your servant from now on." Gu Qingshan replied without changing her expression, "I can tell that the Soul Shrieker is taking this matter very seriously. That martial cultivator's job was only to stall me. The one who initiated this entire matter was you. A minion wouldn't receive that much trust from the higher-ups, nor would they be assigned such an important task. That's why you're not a minion. Don't try to lie to me," the old man froze. "I don't accept any begging," Gu Qingshan coldly said. "One last time, tell me, or die." His killing intent became even heavier. The old man stared at her emotionless eyes. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, but he couldn't think of any way for himself to survive. He sighed and couldn't help but say, "First tell me, how did you discover the truth? Only then will I dare to tell you about the twin swords heaven and earth." Gu Qingshan asked, "Is this a deal?" "That's right. If the reason we failed was because of the true God's own arrangements, it wouldn't have easily eaten us subordinates," the old man said. "I have to ensure that I can survive before I can tell you what you want to know. Otherwise, why would I do this?" Gu Qingshan pondered for a moment and said, "A deal is a rule that I recognize. Fine, I can tell you. But if you go back on your word, I'll make you disappear forever." "It's a deal," the old man said. Gu Qingshan shook her head and said, "Actually, this matter is too simple, so I didn't even think about it before I found your flaw." The old man could not help but ask, "What do you mean?" Gu Qingshan said slowly, "Because I was stopped as soon as I came to this world. Your God is still in another world and is being held back by my people. But he is afraid that I will ruin his plan, so he sent someone to wait for me, hoping to stall me for a while. If he wants to stall me, it must be because his plan in this world is still in progress. After getting rid of the person who tried to stop me, I caught up to you and Xiegu Hong, the simplest method of elimination. Between the two of you, one of you must be preparing to do something. In short, either you or Xiegu Hong has an issue. I only need to follow and watch. After you died, the only one who has an issue is Xiegu Hong. But at this point, I can't be sure if you're truly dead or if you're faking your death due to the Soul Shrieker's resurrection property. At this point, to find the crux of the issue, I only need to perform a simple screening to see if you're truly dead or not, so you're faking your death. Then the issue lies in what you've done from start to finish. You've only done a single thing. You told Xiegu Hong how important the twin swords heaven and earth are to humanity's fate. If there's an issue with you, then there's also an issue with what you've done. Because of that, there must be an issue with the twin swords heaven and earth. Gu Qingshan sighed. "I'm too lazy to repeat this kind of childish deduction a second time." The white-haired old man froze briefly. After a bit of thought, he couldn't help but ask, "Are you also an entity from the eternal abyss?" Gu Qingshan didn't answer. His voice became cold and emotionless. "Don't worry about my identity. It's time for you to complete our deal. I'll ask you one last time. Why did you purposely give the Jade tag for the twin swords heaven and earth to Xiegu Hong?" The old man looked at Gu Qingshan, then at the Devil King Rod. Recalling what she said just now, his expression slowly became dejected. The old man sighed. "A true god needs a weapon." "A weapon?" Gu Qingshan asked. The old man replied, "Yes, I don't know the specifics, but it requires the most precious materials of the eternal abyss to forge the twin swords heaven and earth. For humanity, although these two swords can be used as swords, they're only important components of that weapon." Gu Qingshan asked. "At the time, you had Xiegu Hong fuse the two Jade tags into the twin swords heaven and earth because the Jade tags themselves were materials from the eternal abyss." "That is indeed the case. You reacted too quickly," the old man sighed. "Why didn't the Soul Shrieker forge it itself?" Gu Qingshan asked. The old man hesitated a bit, then gritted his teeth. The twin swords heaven and earth must be forged using extremely precise techniques for several years in order to complete. The true God's main body is still in slumber. Only a split body has awoken. The purpose of the split body's existence is to provide nutrients for the main body. It's proficient in combat, but not weaponsmithing. Because of that, the split body must rely on the power of an intelligent race to forge the twin swords. The split body believes that cultivators are very weak. They have the wisdom and skill to forge weapons, but they aren't a threat, so it decided to make arrangements. Gu Qing Shan silently listened to him and asked, "Why is its main body in a slumber state?" "I'm not sure about that," the old man replied. "Did the split body say why it wanted to forge the twin swords heaven and earth?" Gu Qing Shan asked again. "To complete that weapon, I really don't know the specifics," the old man replied. Gu Qing Shan threw out another question. "Didn't you rely on it? Why didn't you just find someone to help it forge it?" "That won't do," the old man smiled bitterly. "To forge the twin swords heaven and earth requires at least 5 to 10 3,000 worlds level combatants," the old man continued. "Combatants of that level might not be able to win against the split body, but they wouldn't be controlled by it either. After all, it couldn't enter the primordial heaven realm." Gu Qing Shan asked in surprise. "You said it couldn't enter the primordial heaven realm?" "Indeed, during the bygone era, the primordial heaven realm was protected by a unique defensive mechanism. As soon as a true god appeared inside, they would be transported out," the old man replied. "But as the Lord of Desolation, it could enter," Gu Qing Shan commented. "It could only stay for a short while. Once the time was up, it would still be discovered and transported out," the white-haired old man replied. Gu Qing Shan was surprised. No wonder the Lord of Desolation left so quickly after killing the Divine King during the last war. "It turns out it couldn't stay for too long," the old man continued. "More importantly, although the true God provided the main material and method to forge the twin swords heaven and earth, he didn't provide the other materials." "The other materials?" Gu Qing Shan asked. "Indeed, these two swords require the combined strength of both the divine race and humanity, as well as all of the primordial heaven realm's resources. Even the bodies and souls of a few divine race and humans would be required to truly forge them," the old man replied. Gu Qing Shan muttered. "If that's the case, both the divine race and humanity would rather die in battle to protect themselves than to forge the twin swords heaven and earth," the old man continued. "Because of that, the best solution would be to set up a trap and deceive humanity." Hearing that, Gu Qing Shan couldn't help but sigh deeply. Indeed, when humanity is in deep despair, they would sacrifice all of their resources and even their souls, placing the hope of humanity on these two swords. Chapter 860. The white-haired old man observed Gu Qing Shan's expression. It wasn't until Gu Qing Shan's frown loosened that the old man carefully spoke. "As per your request, I've told you everything I know. I beg you, please let me go." Saying so, the old man was already sobbing. Gu Qing Shan didn't say anything and simply pulled. The Devil King Warden rod left the old man's body and was put into the void of space by Gu Qing Shan. The old man quickly retreated. While retreating, he quickly circulated the purple glow around his body. With the help of the eternal power, the old man became a living person again in just one breath's worth of time. At this moment, his face was filled with an expression as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. That rod was too terrifying, able to completely control a dead person like him. Only by becoming a living person again would the fear and despair in his heart slowly disappear. However, this person is so naive that he didn't kill me? The old man appeared confused and couldn't help but ask, "You really won't kill me?" Gu Qing Shan replied, "I'm a person who follows the rules of a deal. Since I said I'll use your life to exchange for information, I'll definitely do it." The old man shook his head. "I didn't think you'd be so naive. In this world, only the dead can keep secrets. Once I survive and report what happened to you to the true God, you won't be able to escape from his grasp." "I don't think so. I think only an idiot would use death to keep secrets," Gu Qing Shan replied. "Idiot," the old man said. Boom! boundless spiritual power erupted from his body. In a split second, the old man's hands turned into blurred images as he quickly formed a complicated hand seal. The hand seal was complete. At this moment, the old man only needed to infuse his spirit energy into the hand seal to unleash a powerful thaumaturgy. An idiot like you managed to become the sect master of the Drifting Moon Immortal sect. It seems the Drifting Moon Immortal sect's destruction is only natural. The old man smirked. When he was about to infuse his spirit energy, he saw that Gu Qingshan was casually looking at him with her hands behind her back. The old man, an indescribable feeling started to accumulate in his heart. This bastard. He had clearly obtained an immortal body long ago. He was clearly prepared to unleash a full set of powerful killing techniques. But why did she not dare to make a move when she saw him like that? The old man could not help but ask, "You're just standing there casually. Are you prepared to die in my hands?" Gu Qingshan replied, "No." The old man asked, "Do you think that if you spare me once, I will be grateful to you?" "That's not it. I just think that with your intelligence, you'll definitely understand the key to this," Gu Qingshan said. The old man was startled. "With my level of intelligence? Bastard! I don't know anything." The old man was about to go crazy. At this time, Gu Qingshan's voice came. "What is your mission?" The old man replied, "Of course to have Xie Daoling take the jade tag containing the twin swords heaven and earth." As soon as he finished speaking, he was stunned once more. "That's right. I've already completed the true God's mission." Gu Qingshan continued. "My subordinates have trapped your God in the other world, but they won't be able to hold him for long. You should quickly leave. I'll be leaving soon as well." The old man was stunned again. "That's right. I've already completed the mission, so I'll definitely be rewarded by the true God. But if I can't defeat Zhao Wuzong in a short amount of time..." "Wait a minute. Zhao Wuzong is the sect master of Drifting Moon Immortal sect. He has countless treasures and powerful means. Not to mention his cultivation is a bit higher than mine. Although I have an immortal body, it's not easy to defeat him. Both sides will definitely fall into a stalemate. This will be a long battle. At that time, the true God will personally come to take a look. I'll still be fighting someone. The true God will definitely capture Zhao Wuzong. If the true God asks, how am I supposed to explain this? Am I supposed to tell the true God that I was pressed to the ground and tortured, then divulged the true God's secret?" The old man trembled. Regardless of the situation, divulging the true God's secret is the worst form of betrayal. In front of the eternal true God, the consequences of betrayal are the old man couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. This definitely can't happen. He immediately stopped his hand seals and awkwardly said, "Then I'll be leaving first. You should also leave quickly. Don't run into the true God." Without hesitation, the old man's body moved and landed on a patch of ground with a pattern of white clouds. Noticing that Gu Qingshan was staring at him, he patiently explained, "This is the exit. There's one on each floor. As soon as you've chosen your item, it will transport you back to the desolate world. All right, take care." Gu Qingshan clasped her fist and said, "You too. Take care." The old man habitually clasped his fist in return. His figure disappeared from the white cloud. As soon as he disappeared, the old man finally realized that he was clasping his fist to say goodbye. This person, what is he? For some reason, a thought suddenly appeared in the old man's mind. I don't want to run into this sect master, Zhao, ever again. Even if I have to fight against him for several days, even if I have to climb a mountain of blades or dive into a sea of flames, that's fine. I really don't want to run into him ever again. After the old man left, Gu Qingshan waved her hand. A few strands of silver hair on the ground flew into the air, carefully collected into a small bag, then put it into her inventory bag. Just now, when I used Dream Jolt to suppress him and the Chao Yin sword to cut his throat, I also cut off some of his hair. I might be able to use these hairs at an appropriate time. After all, it's always better to prepare more than less. Gu Qingshan put the items away and fell into thought again. So the twin swords heaven and earth were weapons from the eternal abyss. They were only a part of a certain weapon. The Soul Shrieker's plan had already failed. From what I know, When Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace was destroyed, Xie Guhong had Huang Zhan take the damaged Earth Sword away. But I've entered that fragment and know that out of the 3 disciples, only Shenyang survived. Shenyang brought the Earth Sword and the sleeping Xie Dao Ling into a certain fragment of the samsara. That was the cultivation world of the future. Shenyang was most likely injured during his battle against Zhao Quan, so he wasn't able to properly inherit the Dao of Barren Cloud Heavenly Palace. Because of that, the cultivation world standards had always been low, so they didn't even understand a lot of necessary knowledge. Throughout history, the Earth Sword was passed down, and Xie Dao Ling also survived. Perhaps even the Soul Shrieker didn't expect that the Earth Sword would suddenly disappear from the primordial heaven realm due to the persecution of the divinities. As for the Heaven Sword, it was hidden away by humanity using the Phantom Images technique. Neither of these 2 swords would be easy to find. That's why, at the end of the Age of Old, the twin swords Heaven and Earth weren't taken away, nor did they become weapons of the eternal abyss. The Soul Shrieker's plan failed. But, I traveled through countless years and returned to the Age of Old from the distant future. I brought the Earth Sword with me. The Heaven Sword's hiding place was also slowly being revealed. This gave the eternal true God a second chance to steal the twin swords. The mysteries of fate are truly inexplicable. Gu Qingshan scowled and tried to come up with a solution. It's actually very simple to resolve this. The Earth Sword was already on the verge of breaking. As long as I destroy the Earth Sword, the eternal true God's second chance would disappear. With that in mind, Gu Qingshan couldn't help but shake her head. Suddenly, strands of spirit energy rose from the platform. Gu Qingshan immediately looked up. Zhao Wuzong had appeared on the warp formation. The 2 Zhao Wuzong's eyes met. Neither of them were the real Zhao Wuzong. So fast. Where's that martial cultivator? Gu Qingshan asked. He ran away, Shanu replied. As soon as he saw that white-haired old man, the 2 of them left together. I didn't say anything. The old man said that the mission was complete and that they had to retreat, so the martial cultivator quickly followed him. That's simple, Gu Qingshan commented. Shanu took out a communication talisman and gave it to Gu Qingshan. Whose is this? Gu Qingshan was surprised. Shanu replied. That martial cultivator wanted me to join their group, so he was enthusiastically talking to me before he left. Perhaps he felt a bit regretful, so he left me his contact number. The old man didn't do anything. He didn't. He had a very strange expression on his face. What expression? It's hard to describe. Shanna thought for a bit, then replied, like a person running into a wall. I understand now, Gu Qingshan replied. Shanna landed next to Gu Qingshan and silently glanced at him a few times. Gongzi, you don't look too happy. Did something happen? Gu Qingshan then explained the situation. Shanu went silent for a bit, then said, I've thought of a way to prevent the Soul Shrieker from succeeding. What way? Gu Qingshan asked. If the Earth Sword is destroyed, the Soul Shrieker's plan will fail, Shanu softly replied. Fool, we're here to save the Earth Sword, not to destroy it, Gu Qingshan replied. Shanu anxiously said, but if that's the case, Gongzi might have to compete with the Soul Shrieker for the twin swords Heaven and Earth. It's too powerful. We have no hope, Gu Qingshan replied. I want to try. Shanu was worried. Gongzi, in our own era, even the lords of the 900 million World Layers Alliance weren't a match for it. Don't try too hard, Gu Qingshan shook her head. Shanu, do you know what true despair is? Shanu asked. Is there a huge disparity in strength? Gu Qingshan shook her head. No, true despair is knowing nothing. An unknown enemy, an unknown secret, an unknown environment. In short, you don't know anything at all. At that moment, you can only fight with everything you have and can't think of any strategy at all. But now that we know a lot of information and have seen the Soul Shriekers battle with our own eyes, our chances of winning are constantly increasing. I won't let the Earth Sword die. I swear in the end, the Heaven Sword will also be ours. I won't give that true deity any chance. Hearing that, Shanu's expression finally calmed down. If Gongzi says that our chances of winning are constantly increasing, then it must be true. If Gongzi says that the Earth Sword won't die, then it definitely won't die. Chapter 861. Gongzi, what we do now? Do we return? Shanu asked. Of course not. It wasn't easy for us to come out. We should at least get something out of here, Gu Qingshan replied. What is it? Shanu asked. Gu Qingshan pointed below her feet. This place is a treasure trove. I spent so much time just now that Xie Guhong has probably finished picking his treasures and left. It's my turn now, treasures? What kind of treasures do you want to pick, Gongzi? Shanu curiously asked. I'm also thinking this is already the 33rd floor from what I've seen so far. The higher we go, the fewer things there are, but the more valuable they are. So at this point, Gu Qingshan seemed to have remembered something and loudly asked, Right, Shanu? You're still in your human form, right? That's right. Gongzi, do I need to return to my sword spirit form? Shanu doubtfully asked. Please don't. Gu Qingshan hurriedly stopped her. Why not? Shanu doubtfully asked. Gu Qingshan explained. There are two of us right now, which means we can pick 2 treasures here before we leave. He felt a bit excited. It's been a long time since I found anything decent. Even the armor he wore at the front lines last time was lent to him by a fire spirit cultivator. It was the fire spirit cultivator's family armor. Unfortunately, this cultivator died on the front lines without the armor. After the war ended, Gu Qingshan found the fire spirit cultivator's family and silently sent the armor back. At the time, not only did he send the armor back, he also left quite a bit of cultivation resources for the fire spirit cultivator's son. Indeed, this was only a fragment of a phantom image, not the real space-time of the past. But Gu Qingshan wouldn't betray his comrade's trust just because of that, regardless of what kind of person they were. Shanu looked around and asked, Gongzi, there are a lot of obviously precious treasures here. Aren't you going to take a look? This floor contained a lot of rare bygone-era materials that could be used to make powerful treasures. Not only this floor, but the entire temple was a world of treasures from the bygone era. Gu Qingshan replied, There's no need. Just understanding the usage of these materials would require a lot of effort. If we want to process these materials, we'll need an extremely high cultivation and the corresponding means. We don't have the time for that, so let's go and take a look at the next level. Yes, Gongzi. Shanu looked at the rare materials reluctantly and answered. The two of them flew onto the teleportation array and headed for the next floor. 34th floor. Gu Qingshan turned around slowly. From time to time, he would touch here and there out of curiosity. Shanu asked, Gongzi, didn't you tell me that the old man told you to leave as soon as possible because he was afraid of a true god? Yes. Gu Qingshan answered casually while fiddling with an ice conch. Young master, why don't you seize the time to pick something and run away? Is Gongzi not afraid of that eternal true god coming? Shanu curiously asked. Gu Qingshan was surprised. Why would it come? It had perfectly achieved its goal, and that old man would tell it that I ran away. Are you sure, Gongzi? It must be carefully protecting Xie Guhong right now, afraid that something might happen to Xie Guhong. Then what if it really came to check? Shanu didn't let it go. If you put it that way, Gu Qingshan took out a teleportation talisman and said, First of all, this Taoist temple only allows humans to enter, so it would take a while for it to dismantle this structure. Not to mention, I've already tested it. My teleportation talisman isn't restricted here, so I can leave whenever I want. Shanu patted her chest. If that old man really did prepare for you, then I can rest assured. Chem, help me pick something as well, Gu Qingshan said. Shanu is a sword spirit, so she has a different perspective, so she might be able to help me pick out a few good things. All right, Shanu replied. The two of them split up and began to wander around the 34th floor. Not too long later, Gongzi, come quickly, Shanu called out from afar. Gu Qingshan walked over. Look, Shanu pointed at a set of armor. Gu Qingshan looked. In front of them was a beautifully crafted armor that gave off a faint glow, silently hovering in the air. It's the strongest armor I've ever seen, Gu Qingshan commented. Is that so? I tried to cut it myself just now, but it didn't leave any marks, so this must be an extremely rare armor, Shanu continued. Gongzi is a sword cultivator, So what you need the most is a set of armor with excellent defensive capabilities. So you might as well choose this one. Gu Shan muses. That's true. If a sword cultivator has a suitable armor, they'll be like a tiger that has grown wings on the battlefield. But what? Shanu asked. Shanu, haven't you noticed? This is a female armor. It doesn't fit my waist. Gu Shan shrugged. He suddenly understood and said with a smile, You want to wear this set of armor? Shanu? Me? Shanna froze. That's right. If you want this armor, you can take it. After all, I also think that such a powerful armor is hard to come by, Gu Shan replied. Shanna waved her hand dismissively. Gongzi, did you forget? I have the invincible property, so I won't be harmed under normal circumstances. The Six Paths Great Mountain Sword has the thaumaturgy. Invincible, invincible. All powers and techniques of the Ten World cannot destroy this sword. Gu Shan thought for a bit. But you were heavily wounded in Huang Quan, Shanu replied. I remember telling you before, when I was in slumber, the descendants of the divine race purposefully set up a trap for me, using a method that specifically targets spirits to harm me. But now that Gongzi is my master, I won't give anyone a chance to harm me like that. Gu Shan thought about it for a bit. Indeed, at the time, there was nothing in Huang Quan that could stop the seven-colored spear. So I asked the weapons of Huang Quan to bring me to find a weapon that could. And that was Shanu. So you don't really want to wear this armor, but you really want me to wear it. But I'm a man, Gu Shan said. Shanu replied. Gold is easy to find, but armor is hard to find. Gongzi, you'll have to bear with it for a bit. As long as you transform into me, you'll be able to wear this armor. Gu Shan was a bit surprised. If I transform into Shanu, I'll become a woman. If I transform into a woman, I'll be able to wear this bygone-era female armor whenever I want. That's not a bad idea at all. Not a bad idea at all. This idea is too dangerous. I've never wanted to be a woman before. Gu Shan took a deep breath and smiled warmly at Shanu. You're very considerate. I'll take a look a bit more if there's no better choice. I'll take this armor. Very well, Shanna happily replied. After leaving the Huang Quan path and seeing so many worlds, Shanu's perspective and mentality had slowly changed. Although her personality was still cold, she was happy to be able to help Gongzi pick out a set of armor. Gu Shan began to wander around again. This time, his pace was a lot faster. There are a lot of good things, but none of them suit me. Wait a minute. Gu Shan suddenly saw something. He stopped and walked toward that item. It was a jade pendant carved out of white jade, with a faint layer of mist drifting around it to hide the shape of the jade pendant. When Gu Shan looked at the jade pendant, the mist around it completely dispersed, revealing the true appearance of the jade pendant. It was a jade gourd. Seeing the dispersed mist, Gu Shan stopped. He lightly called out, Come. The jade pendant fluttered in the air and floated towards Gu Shan. Shanu was surprised. Gongzi, this is, Gu Shan replied. That's right. A person chooses an item, and an item also chooses a person. Perhaps it feels that I'm worthy of it. Who would have thought the situation that the subworld warned him about would actually happen? Gu Shan didn't receive any backlash from anything, but a jade pendant recognized him as its master. This was a miraculous thing. Gu Shan and Shanu stood still, waiting for the jade pendant to fly over. A few dozen seconds later, the jade gourd pendant was flying extremely slowly, still not reaching Gu Shan. Shanna looked at the jade gourd pendant and scowled. If you want to follow Gongzi, why are you flying so slowly? The jade gourd pendant shook a bit and sped up a bit, but it was still very slow. Gu Shan used a telekinesis hand seal to put the jade pendant away. Gongzi, Shanna doubtfully asked. It's been 100 million years. It's been too long. I think it might not have much strength left. I also like it, so I wanted to express my sincerity. Gu Shan sighed emotionally. Shanu smiled. A gentleman doesn't leave his body without a reason. This jade pendant is quite suitable for Gongzi. I'm not a gentleman. I'm only a sword cultivator, Gu Shan replied. As he stared at the jade gourd pendant, lines of glowing text appeared on the war god UI, frowny face, bygone era artifact, jade pendant. Adorable. This jade pendant was naturally formed, manifested from the bygone era's heaven and earth zhongxiu, always hidden and invisible, only appearing when it is happy to see someone. This jade pendant has the thaumaturgy, borrowing heaven and earth. This jade pendant has the thaumaturgy, 100 lanterns. This jade pendant has the thaumaturgy, spotless jade. Description: only when the jade pendant tells you personally will you know the specific properties of the thaumaturgy. Reading the last line of description, Gu Qingshan couldn't help but frown. Among the things he had come into contact with, only the most powerful of entities could have such a situation. The Earth Sword, Chao Yin's sword, and Shanu had all personally told Gu Qingshan what kind of power he had. It was normal for a flying sword to have such a situation. But now, a tiny jade pendant was able to reach such a level. Gu Qingshan's gaze fell onto the second line of glowing text. From the literal meaning, it means that when the jade pendant wants to see someone, it will appear on its own. Aside from this situation, no one would be able to find it normally. This isn't simple at all. Gu Qingshan muttered. Seems quite impressive, Xiao. Chapter 862. Gu Qingshan stroked the jade gourd in her hand, carefully sensing the thought coming from it. Hungry? He asked in surprise. I've never heard of a treasure feeling hungry before. Gongzi, what's wrong with this jade gourd? Shanu asked. Shanu, have you ever been hungry? Gu Qingshan asked. Never. I'm the spirit of the Six Paths Great Mountain. I don't need food or drink, Shanu replied. Gu Qingshan nodded, then asked, this jade gourd might have been left here for too long. It told me it was hungry. Shanu, if you don't have any power to replenish yourself for a long time, would you need something? Shanu replied, I wouldn't. The Six Paths Great Mountain is the manifestation of the great power that protects the world. As long as the Divine Mountain exists, I will have the power of the Divine Mountain. I don't need anything else to replenish myself. Gu Qingshan looked down at the jade gourd and asked, what do you want to eat? Show. The jade gourd moved a bit and gave off a faint sound. An invisible gust of wind circled around the gourd, then quickly faded away. Gu Qingshan's expression changed. This is a supernatural phenomenon manifested by soul points. Does this jade gourd need soul points? Right at this time, 2 lines of glowing text appeared on the war god, UI, frowny-faced jade gourd. Adorable desires some soul points. Are you willing to pay 100 soul points to help it nourish its avatar? Seeing that it was only 100 soul points, Gu Qingshan directly transferred the soul points in his body into the jade gourd. He had been in contact with soul points ever since he was Qi Training Realm, and now he didn't need to rely on the system and could use soul points on his own. Receiving the soul points, the jade gourd let out a satisfied sound. Then it stopped moving. It stopped moving? Gu Qingshan looked at Shanu with a questioning expression. What's going on with it? It's asleep. I can sense that it's entering a deep state of recovery, Shanu replied. Gu Qingshan was surprised. Perhaps because it had been through so many years, the jade gourd needed to slowly recover its power. Gu Qingshan put away the jade gourd. Let's go, Shanu. There's nothing else on this floor that suits me. Let's go to the next floor, Gu Qingshan said. Yes, Shanu replied. They flew onto the teleportation formation and left this floor. 35th floor. Gu Qingshan and Shanu appeared at the same time. This was the second to last level of the entire hidden treasure temple. According to his observations along the way, the higher the floor, the fewer treasures there were, and the more precious they were. There were only 4 high platforms on the 35th floor. 2 of the platforms were already empty, leaving only the other 2 with items on them. Gu Qingshan pondered for a moment and understood. The burly man and the white-haired old man actually had the ability to enter this place a long time ago. It was very likely that they had taken the 2 items here. As for the other 2 platforms, there was an ancient zither and a huge copper hammer. The zither was giving off a faint melody that made people recall the past, but the more they thought about it, the more immersed they became. It took Gu Qingshan 1 breath's worth of time to escape from it. Even so, his back was already covered in a layer of cold sweat. If he continued to be controlled by the zither's melody, he might not be able to free himself from it and become lost in his memories. Gu Shan became cautious and ignored the zither. He walked in front of the copper hammer. This was a 5-meter-long giant hammer. It was impossible to imagine what kind of person would use such a large weapon. But as soon as Gu Shan stood in front of the hammer, a jade tag appeared from the void of space and slowly fell into Gu Shan's hand. Scanning it with his inner sight, Gu Shan quickly understood the value of this copper hammer. This was a soul artifact. Within the 900 million world layers, soul artifacts were supreme treasures that would cause a storm of blood whenever they appeared. In the past, when Lola randomly threw out a soul artifact, the progenitor fiendess immediately agreed to Gu Shan's cooperation plan. It could be seen just how valuable a soul artifact was. To activate a soul artifact, one must use soul points. Wait a minute. Could it be the Jade Gourd pendant I obtained was also a soul artifact? But the Jade Gourd pendant seems to have fallen asleep, so I can't communicate with it. Gu Shan temporarily stopped thinking and lightly placed his hand on the copper hammer. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. Without any signs of fatigue, frowny face, bygone era artifact, World Destroyer Hammer. 16 high-level cultivators need to infuse their soul points to activate this hammer. Swinging the World Destroyer Hammer and hitting the ground will destroy the world. A small world requires 21 strikes to destroy the earth, water, fire, and wind elements of the small world. A middle-sized world requires 36 strikes. A large-sized world requires 81 strikes. Gu Shan waved his hand. Shanu, come and try this since I've been recognized by the Jade Gourd pendant as its master. Shanu now has the right to choose what she wants. It's best to keep such a terrifying weapon in my hands to prevent some lunatic from taking it away. Not to mention, this is a power that can destroy a world. If used well, it might have miraculous effects. Shanu walked forward and grabbed the long handle of the hammer. Bam! Her hand was immediately knocked away. What's going on? Gu Shan asked. Gongzi, it's not possible. A unique secret technique is needed to use it, Shanu replied. Gu Shan sighed in relief. If that's the case, I don't have to worry anymore. Not bad. The humans of the bygone era finally did something reliable. Let's go. There's nothing on this floor that I can use. Let's go to the last floor, Gu Shan said. I wonder what kind of treasure is on the last floor, Shanu curiously asked. Gu Shan smiled. Regardless of what it is, Xiaogu Hong must have taken the technique to release the phantom images. Why is that? Shanu asked. Gu Shan replied. Phantom images are countless fragments of parallel space-time. Other than the bygone era humanity, who else could create such an unimaginable space-time technique? Shanu thought for a bit and nodded. The two of them flew into the warp formation and left the 35th floor. The 36th floor. This was the final floor of the entire Taoist temple. Outside the warp formation, the entire floor was completely empty, almost as if there was nothing at all. The only thing that remained were 2 tall platforms at the very center of the floor. Gu Shan and Shanu flew over, only to see that one of the platforms no longer had anything on it, while the other only had a jade bottle with a wide mouth and a long neck. Gu Shan and Shanu exchanged glances. This scene was so simple that it didn't fit their expectations at all. Gu Shan first walked up to the jade bottle. A jade tag appeared from the void of space. Gu Shan's inner sight seeped into it and quickly understood the meaning of this jade bottle. Anyone could open the jade bottle. The jade bottle would automatically sense the cultivation of the person who opened it and give them a bygone era realm breaker pill of the corresponding level. The bygone era realm breaker pill was a very practical item that could help a cultivator break through to the next realm. Although this pill was miraculous, a cultivator could only use one in their entire life. For this jade bottle in front of them, if the person who opened the bottle was a chaotic star realm cultivator, a bygone era realm breaker restoration pill would definitely fly out and fall into their hands. If a chaotic star realm cultivator ate this pill, they would immediately break through to origin realm. If the person who opened the bottle was a 3,000 worlds realm cultivator, a bygone era realm breaker pill would appear in the bottle. the cultivator would immediately break through to Paragon Realm. This was already set up so that each person could only take one. Taking more would result in immediate expulsion from this world. Shanu also finished reading the description in the Jade tag. Gongzi? She appeared glad. HM, go ahead, Gu Qingshan nodded. Since Xie Guhong had already taken the item on the other platform, Shanu could only take one Realm Breaker pill. Shanu walked up and opened the lid of the jade bottle. A pill emitting layers of auspicious light suddenly flew out of the jade bottle. Shanu caught the pill and flicked it with her finger. As soon as the pill fell into Gu Qingshan's hand, it bounced up and was about to fly into his mouth. Gu Qingshan hurriedly caught the pill and put it into a jade box. Right now, Gu Qingshan didn't dare to eat it. With how low his cultivation was, as soon as this pill entered his mouth, he wouldn't be able to handle the medicinal effects and would die from the overflowing spirit energy, destroying his meridians. Gu Qingshan carefully put the jade box into his inventory bag. Zhao Wuzong was a Void Revolution Realm cultivator. In other words, only when I reach Void Revolution Realm would I be able to use this Realm Breaker pill to immediately break through to 3,000 Worlds Realm. This was completely unimaginable, but for the bygone era's pill-making technology, it was already possible to reach this step. The Jade Pendant, Adorable, and the Realm Breaker Pill are both good items. Our harvest this time was quite good. Gu Qingshan asked, "Do you want to return now?" Shanu asked. Gu Qingshan remained silent without moving. Gongzi? Shanu doubtfully asked. I truly admire Shifu for being able to resist the temptation of breaking through to Paragon Realm and take away the Phantom Image technique, Gu Qingshan said. But I still want to confirm something. He walked to another high platform and quickly stood under it. A jade tag appeared from the void of space. This jade tag also recorded the information of the treasures placed on the platform. As Gu Qingshan scanned it with his inner sight, the information on the jade tag quickly appeared in his mind: frowny face, enemy-killing swordsmanship. This is the essence of the enemy-killing swordsmanship, the culmination of all the techniques and essentials of humanity's swordsmanship cultivation, exquisite beyond compare. Gu Qingshan froze. What? It's a sword technique and not a phantom image technique? Then. Chapter 863. Gu Qingshan was stunned for a while. This was the most unlikely part of my deduction. But it was precisely here that something unexpected happened. Xie Guhong took the bygone-era sword technique, not the phantom image technique. Where exactly did the phantom image technique come from? If it was the desolate race, or even the true gods of the eternal abyss, why would they give such a powerful technique to a human? It seems there are still a lot of variables in this era that I haven't noticed yet. Gu Qingshan stood in front of the floating jade tag and fell into thought. He once again scanned the jade tag with his inner sight. Enemy-killing sword technique. Why does this name sound so familiar? Gu Qingshan muttered and tried to recall. He suddenly put his hand on his inventory bag and began to search through it. The target he was looking for was so huge that he found it almost instantly. A large-sized jade tag. This was a gift from Xie Guhong. Xie Guhong had recorded everything he had learned in his entire life into this jade tag. Gu Qingshan had skimmed through the contents of this jade tag, so he had a vague impression of the name enemy-killing sword technique. However, the name enemy-killing sword technique was a bit too simple, and the requirements to learn it were too high, so I didn't pay much attention to it after a single glance. Who would have thought that this would be a sword technique from the bygone era? The bygone era. What kind of sword techniques were they from that era? Gu Qingshan couldn't wait to find this sword technique. Next to this swordsmanship, Xie Guhong had already written a note. This is an unimaginable swordsmanship. After pondering it for a long time, I understood one thing. With my attainments in swordsmanship, I still need a few more leaps of improvement before I can gain anything from this swordsmanship. Gu Qingshan was speechless. Even Xie Guhong hasn't learned this sword technique yet. No, it's not that he hasn't learned it. It's that he hasn't been able to learn it yet. Gu Qingshan shook his head. Full of respect, he sent his inner sight into the part of the jade tag that contained the enemy-killing sword technique. He did everything he could to try and comprehend the enemy-killing sword technique. A few moments later, as expected, he couldn't understand it at all. Gu Qingshan was unwilling to give up and glanced at the War God UI. Lines of glowing text had already appeared on the War God UI. Enemy-killing sword technique. This is an ancient sword technique used to end everything. Since your level is too low, you are temporarily unable to comprehend this sword technique well. To use soul points to comprehend this swordsmanship, you will need to pay 1 soul points. Gu Qingshan counted the zeros and cleared her throat. Shanu, let's go. Shanu was reading the Jade tag that introduced the enemy-killing sword style. Young master, this sword technique is probably very powerful, she said. Gu Qingshan stiffly replied. Who would have thought that Palace Master Xie would give up on the Realm Breaker Pill and choose this bygone era sword technique? Instead, Shanna commented. Gu Qingshan replied. Let's go back and find Palace Master Xie and think of a way to make him teach you this sword technique, Shanna suggested. Gu Qingshan stopped and spoke with a serious expression. Shanu, even my Shifu wasn't able to cultivate this sword technique. I don't want to become a sword cultivator that's too ambitious. What do you mean, young master? Before I surpass Shifu, I won't cultivate this sword technique. Gongzi is such a steadfast person, Shanna praised. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's go. Yes, young master. Gu Qingshan took out a warp talisman and infused it with spirit energy. His entire body disappeared from the 36th floor and was instantly transported out. The desolate world, in a wilderness that was completely made up of magic stones. An underground cavern. Gu Qingshan appeared. When he came, there were a total of 4 people here, but only Xie Guhong and Gu Qingshan were left. The white-haired old man and the burly man were both subordinates of the eternal true God. They had betrayed humanity. Xie Guhong received the twin swords heaven and earth forging method from the white-haired old man, as well as the enemy-killing sword technique. He had also left. The only person left here was Gu Qingshan. He released his inner sight to observe the surroundings. On the ground outside the cavern, there was still an endless horde of monsters, filling up the path leading to the depths of the desolate world. There weren't any particularly powerful monsters among the outermost circle of monsters. But the closer one got to the city wall, the more terrifying the monsters became. This was a sea of monsters created by the Lord of Desolation. No, the Soul Shrieker. Without shadow origin power, no one would be able to pass through. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, slowly left the cavern, and stood behind a hidden rock slope. He opened his hand and looked at it. A coin appeared in his hand. This was the coin the figure of light gave him. It could only be used once to return to the sky beyond heaven of the primordial heaven realm at any time. Gu Qingshan stayed silent for a few moments. System, do you still need soul points? He asked. Ting. The war god system responded with a clear chime. Of course, the more soul points, the better, Gu Qingshan nodded. He didn't ask the system what he needed soul points for, so he simply hid behind the rock slope and silently waited. A few moments later, his expression suddenly changed. An intense noise resounded between heaven and earth. The chaotic tides were about to arrive. This was the result of the demon stone's accumulated power reaching its peak. The chaotic and expanding power of the various elements mixed together and erupted at the same time. The monsters became irritated. They no longer looked around and simply stayed close to the ground, afraid that they would be affected by the chaotic tides. There were all sorts of powers within the chaotic tides. If they were hit by a power that could counter them, it would be a disaster. Gu Qingshan's eyes lit up. He silently formed a sword seal. The Chaoyin sword and 6 Paths Great Mountain sword both appeared from the void of space. Go, he shouted. The 2 swords let out a woo-woo sound as they flew towards the sea of monsters. The first monster was beheaded by the Chaoyin sword. It even let out a shrill scream before it died. But the chaotic tides were so loud that its scream couldn't travel very far before it was drowned out by the loud noise. All the monsters were busy fighting against the chaotic tides, so they didn't have time to care about the situation of other monsters. Taking this chance, Gu Qingshan silently used the various secret arts and unleashed his spirit energy like it was free. The two swords spun around, blood filled the sky. The entire stretch of the wilderness was like a bountiful harvest field, allowing the two swords to reap the lives of the monsters within. At a certain point, a clang was heard. The Chaoyin sword flew back while spinning. It was hit by a strange power. Gu Qingshan couldn't help but ask, "Are you okay?" The Chaoyin sword let out a woo-woo sound, turned into a streak of light, and continued to slash at the monsters. Gu Qingshan observed for a while. The Chaoyin sword was occasionally hit, but the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword had the properties of invincible and lawbreaker, so it wasn't affected by any power and continued to slash at the monsters without stopping. Gu Qingshan decided to throw the frost blade out as well, casually unleashing large-scale AoE frost spells. Finally, the screams of the monsters overwhelmed the sound of the chaotic tides. On one hand, it was because Gu Qingshan was killing them too fiercely. On the other hand, it was because the chaotic tides were slowly ending. A few extremely powerful desolate monsters noticed Gu Qingshan's ambush, so they were escaping from their fear of the chaotic tides and were rushing towards them from the wilderness. Roar! The angry roars of the monsters rose one after another. It's about time. If I keep killing, I'll be in big trouble. Gu Qingshan waved his hand. The blade and sword returned and disappeared into the void of space behind him. A coin appeared in Gu Qingshan's hand. The coin gave off a faint glow. In a split second, Gu Qingshan disappeared without a trace. He appeared in the grand divine palace of the sky beyond heaven. The figure of light was standing guard here. Luo Bingli was still working on the jade disc. As soon as Gu Qingshan returned, both the man and the god noticed. Luo Bingli didn't say anything, only lowered his gaze and continued to work on the jade disc. The figure of light came forward and couldn't help but ask, "How is it? Did your majesty the divine king discover any secrets?" Of course, I found out everything. While saying that, Gu Qingshan gestured for the other party to remain calm. He also glanced at the war god UI. Chapter 864. A series of glowing text hovered at the center of the war god UI. This was the summary of the battle from before Frowny Face. Through this battle, you've obtained a total of 7,651 soul points. Your remaining soul points is as Gu Qingshan glanced over. A little over 10,000 soul points wasn't much in the past. But now, the war god UI takes a lot of soul points each time, so any desolate monster I kill would only give me a few dozen or so soul points. That's why Gu Qingshan was already very satisfied with this much soul points. What can I do with 10,000 soul points? I can't do anything else, but I can find a cultivation scripture from the scriptures Xie Guhong gave me. Comprehend it, cultivate for a few more days, and try to break through the final barrier and become a decent void wanderer realm cultivator. Gu Qingshan silently sighed. Unfortunately, after I turned into the god of frost and chill, one thing after another happened after another. I had to deal with them with everything I had, so I didn't have the time to cultivate. While these thoughts took a long time to describe, it only took one breath's worth of time for Gu Qingshan to think about it in the outside world. Your divine majesty, what are you thinking about? The figure of light asked. I'm thinking about how to face the real enemy. Gu Qingshan sighed. This time it was a real sigh. After all, an entity like the Soul Shrieker was hard for anyone to deal with. The real enemy? What do you mean? The figure of light was even more confused. That's right, the Lord of Desolation isn't really much. While saying that, Gu Qingshan was silently thinking about how to phrase it. After a bit of thought, the figure of light understood what Gu Qingshan meant. It seems the Divine King really did find something. The figure of light became spirited and asked, Your Divine Majesty, during your trip to the desolate world, what exactly did you find? The Lord of Desolation wasn't the cause of our divine race's decline. In fact, the entire desolate race was being manipulated, Gu Qingshan replied. In front of the figure of light, he told her everything that happened in the Taoist temple. Of course, she couldn't tell him about the awakening of the human army, nor about the Devil King Wardenrod. Gu Shan could only tell him that she used the power of the divine race to interrogate the old man. As the divine king, the god of frost and chill's power had already reached the peak of Paragon realm. No matter how undying the white-haired old man was, he was only a void wanderer, human expert. He was nothing before God King. Hearing Gu Shan's explanation, the figure of light was speechless for a while. Luo Bingley also pursed her lips, as if recalling something from the past. She lowered her head without saying a word. Winds of chaotic tribulation. Eternal abyss. Taiwei City Wall. The desolate race was being manipulated. Terrifying true deity. Soul Shrieker and the shocking truth. The twin swords heaven and earth were only components of a single weapon from the eternal abyss. The figure of light looked at Gu Shan. If that's the case, then everything makes sense. We never thought that the truth of history would be like this. He spoke in a hoarse voice. Such a shocking secret had always been hidden by the desolate race within the Taiwei City Wall, never to be discovered by the remaining divine race. But today, the truth of history was revealed by a divine king who existed in a fragment of a parallel universe. Gu Shan asked, "You are the collective will of the old gods, the will of all the dead old gods, and the remaining divine race. Do you have any way to deal with this situation?" The figure of light said nothing. The grand divine palace fell silent. Gu Shan waited for a while, then suddenly smiled. "That's true, but we can't even deal with the desolate race alone, let alone the undying eternal true God behind them." Saying so, he turned around, quickly walked up the stairs, and sat down on the divine throne. "Your divine majesty, you seem to be very calm," the figure of light commented. "What awaits our divine race is an irresistible despair. I have no way to deal with it either," Gu Shan replied. His gaze passed through the figure of light and looked at Luo Bingley. She kept her head down, still focused on crafting the jade disc without showing any expression of fear. Indeed, as a human expert, she was trying her best not to look at Gu Shan to avoid arousing the figure of light's suspicions. As that thought flashed through Gu Shan's mind, she turned her gaze back to the figure of light. In theory, after knowing such a huge secret, the figure of light should have immediately left this world to activate all of the preparations the old gods had prepared. But he didn't do anything. From the looks of it, the situation had already gone beyond the divine race's preparations and preparations. The preparations they made were only meant to deal with humanity. Want to fight against the eternal true God? That's impossible. In other words, the divine race had reached a state of despair and had to make a final decision. Gu Shan's expression was expressionless, both hands on the throne, seemingly immersed in his own world, thinking of a solution. In truth, he was only waiting to see what the figure of light would do. After a while of silence, the figure of light couldn't help but speak up. "How about we find the golden flame divinity? He might..." "No." Gu Shan cut the figure of light off and spoke with a seemingly slow but actually fast tone. "The golden flame divinity only cares about his own future. I can't let him know the truth." "What do you mean, Your Majesty?" the figure of light asked. Gu Shan lowered her voice. "Think about it carefully. Once he knows everything, what would he consider first?" The figure of light replied, "He would use everything he knows to face the problem together with us. That's not the case if we bring an entity from the future with us, in the case of a crucial moment where we have to make a choice. For example, if he has to choose between saving us and killing Gu Shan, I believe he would definitely give up on us and kill Gu Shan, because Gu Shan is related to the future of his world. Furthermore, in the history we belong to, we are already dead. Not worth saving at all. He wouldn't do that. Not to mention, there shouldn't be such a coincidence in history," the figure of light replied. Gu Shan clenched her fist and looked at the figure of light. "This king carries the fate of the entire divine race on his shoulders. I cannot take even the slightest risk. So what we need to discuss is what he would do if such a situation were to occur." The figure of light said nothing. Gu Shan continued, "Unless he can prove that he holds goodwill towards the divine race of this era, Only then will I be willing to share the secret of the eternal abyss with him. The figure of light thought for a bit more and said, Your Majesty, please release the golden flame divinity. I will take him to experience a few trials and see what kind of choice he would make. Gu Qingshan froze. What's going on? Could it be that the divine race is able to create a hidden fragment of the era within the phantom images? But there's no time to think about that right now. Gu Qingshan called out without changing her expression. Guards, 6 divine guards flew into the palace. Go, release the golden flame divinity, Gu Qingshan ordered. Understood. The divine guards received their orders and left. The figure of light bowed to Gu Qingshan. Your Majesty, I will be taking him with me. If the answer I receive is the same as what you said, I will return, Gu Qingshan said. The figure of light left the grand divine palace. Only Gu Qingshan and Luo Bingli were left in the palace. It was now that Luo Bingli sent her voice to Gu Qingshan through inner sight. What were you thinking, telling such a big secret to the divine race? She doubtfully asked. They know about the soul shrieker's existence. That's why they've relaxed their pressure on humanity, Gu Qingshan replied. He stretched his back, looking a bit tired. That's right, during the entire journey to the desolate world, his mind had been highly focused, constantly dealing with any and all variables. Even someone like Gu Qingshan was exhausted. Luo Bingli thought for a bit, then asked, You also released the golden flame divinity. It's an entity that came from the future and knows everything. Are you really that careless to let the figure of light take it away? Gu Qingshan yawned. It's not careless. It's just that if you want to take first, you must first give. I don't understand, Luo Bingli replied. Don't worry. When the golden flame divinity makes his choice, they will definitely return. Why would they return? I'm the only divinity that discovered the truth of history. The only divinity that's currently changing the fate of the divine race. The only divine king to awaken in the countless phantom images. The figure of light wouldn't be willing to give up on an entity like me. Luo Bingli thought for a bit, then asked, If I was the golden flame divinity, I probably wouldn't save these divinities from the age of old and would only save my own future. But if the golden flame divinity doesn't think the same as you and I and actually saves these divinities, what then? Who cares? It's only a small matter. Gu Qingshan didn't mind at all. He even took out a bottle of liquor, poured himself a glass, and slowly drank from it on his throne. Luo Bingli looked at Gu Qingshan in shock, unable to understand what this person was thinking. Seeing his attitude, she really didn't want to ask, but this was such an important matter that she wouldn't feel assured if she didn't ask. This is good liquor. You've been working hard recently. Do you want a glass? Gu Qingshan invited her. Gu Qingshan, this isn't a small matter. The golden flame divinity came from the future. Before Luo Bingli could finish her sentence, Gu Qingshan cut her off. So what? If he gives up on saving the divinities, the figure of light will naturally side with me, Luo Bingli pursued. What if he chooses to save the divinities from the age of old? What will you do then? That's even better. Since he's proven his loyalty to the divinities from the age of old, I'll have him work for the divinities from the age of old. Don't worry, this king will make good use of him, Gu Qingshan casually replied. He poured himself a glass of liquor, gave it to her, and said, I suggest that you rest a bit. A bit of liquor will help you relax even more. Relax. Luo Bingli muttered and couldn't help but receive the glass. The clear liquid inside the glass was as pure and enchanting as amber. The eternal true God planned everything. He's also an invincible entity. Do you have a plan to deal with him now? Luo Bingli asked. Not yet. So we still have a lot of things to do from here on out. We need to relax a bit for now. Otherwise, we might make mistakes if our minds are too tense, Gu Qingshan replied. I actually feel like drinking alcohol would make mistakes, Luo Bingli commented. That's true. That's why we're only drinking the spirit fruit liquor brewed by the divinities this time. The ingredients for this liquor are all very rare, capable of boosting one's vigor, as well as giving off a unique fragrance that is hard to forget, so the recipe wasn't passed down to humanity. Gu Qingshan raised her glass, nodded to Luo Bingli, then down it all at once. Seeing Gu Qingshan's expression, Luo Bingli suddenly realized something. They were currently in the palace of the divine race's monarch, drinking the liquor brewed by the divinities. Regardless of what the future holds, this moment has never happened before in the history of humanity. Luo Bingley put the glass in front of her lips and took a sip. Chapter 865. Gu Qing Shan's Homeworld. The North Pole. The mountaintop cabin. He opened his eyes and looked around. There was only endless darkness around him. Countless whispers could be heard. Numerous consciousnesses seemed to be accompanying him, begging for him to release them. I want to kill. All of a sudden, a deafening electronic music resounded from the void of space. This music was so familiar that it drowned out all the other sounds and awakened his memories. This was the game he was most familiar with. This extreme electronic music came from the second stage of the game. When the most powerful monster appears, the music will play. It's very simple to defeat that monster. You only need to jump, attack, jump, dodge, then repeat the process while making sure to unleash your ultimate. All of a sudden, the music became distorted, then completely disappeared. What? How could someone fail such a simple test? He couldn't help but reach his hand out into the darkness. The coffin full of complicated patterns was opened. Yi Fei jumped out from the coffin. As soon as he saw his surroundings, he froze in place. A man wearing a black leather jacket was lying on the floor in front of the fireplace, sleeping soundly with an empty bottle of liquor in his hand. On the other side, a slim girl wearing black stockings and a short skirt with a pair of cat ears was facing away from him, trying her best to control the game controller in her hand. Let's get dressed first before we talk. TSK. After evolving once, your skin has become even fairer. The girl didn't even turn her head as she spoke. It was now that Yi Fei noticed that he wasn't wearing anything at all. He hurriedly looked around, only to see a set of clothes neatly arranged next to the coffin he was sleeping in. After quickly putting on his clothes, Yi Fei sat down next to the girl. Meow. Call me Big Sis Meow. Ah, yes, Big Sis Meow. That stage just now, you wouldn't have been able to pass like that, Yi Fei sincerely said. He remembered that this cat-eared girl who exuded a pure and seductive aura was Meow from the Justice Iron Fist Club. I'm also a member of the club, a newcomer. Hearing that, Meow stuffed the controller into his hand and said, I'm almost out of HP. Can I still pass now? Others might not be able to, but an expert like me can. Yi Fei cheered. Don't be ridiculous. I can pass such a simple stage even with my eyes closed. He took the controller and began to seriously control the character on the screen, trying to avoid the monster's attacks while looking for a chance to counterattack. A few seconds later, the character on the screen was hit again. His HP was completely depleted. Yi Fei scowled. This round is so embarrassing. However, he didn't have much HP left. If he took another hit, he would die. How could he embarrass himself in front of Sister Meow? I have to show my true strength. Yi Fei of this. Correspondingly, countless terrifying blood-colored faces flashed in the void behind him. They wanted to pounce into his body, but they were always blocked by an invisible force, unable to get close at all. Yi Fei didn't seem to notice. Kitty stared intently at the screen, but its fingers were constantly moving, tossing the blood-red faces into the space vortex one after another. While snoring, Bali opened one of his eyes and coldly stared at those bloody faces. When a world destroyer evolves, they will split into endless evil desires, manifesting as dead souls that desire to take control of their body. If a world destroyer is controlled by a dead soul, they will lose their rationality and emotions, turning into a killing machine. A world destroyer will slaughter all living beings in the world, using the world's essence to evolve again and become a stronger apostle of destruction. Fortunately, Meow and Bali were here. They were protecting Yi Fei. Everything was going smoothly. Once Yi Fei's condition stabilizes, he'll be sent to the Tower of Infinite Worlds to train himself. Several 10,000 years ago, the primordial heaven realm, a certain phantom image of the current era, the sky beyond heaven, the grand divine palace. A conversation was going on. I still feel like you shouldn't drink too much alcohol. It's easy to mess things up, Luo Bingley cautiously said. She had already drunk 2 cups of liquor and was currently enjoying her third. Gu Shan drank an entire bottle of liquor, then took out a roasted chicken wrapped in a lotus leaf and lightly sniffed it with his eyes closed. "How fragrant," he muttered. "Hey, you're the divine king. If you eat a roasted chicken here, you'll be exposed when they return from the test," Luo Bingley reminded him. Seeing her serious expression and the cup in her hand, Gu Shan didn't mind. "Tests have always been long. We have plenty of time. Not to mention, no one would dare to trespass this place, Soul Shrieker," Luo Bingley coldly replied. Gu Shan glanced at her. He gestured to her with the roasted chicken in his hand. Luo Bingley's imposing manner was destroyed, so she dejectedly replied, "No, I'm not hungry." It was now that Gu Shan tore off a chicken leg and explained, "At this point, the Soul Shrieker will only silently wait for the twin swords heaven and earth to be forged. It won't disturb the peace between the divine race and humanity." Saying so, he began to eat. Suddenly, his inventory bag shook a bit as the jade pendant adorable flew out by itself. The jade pendant hovered in front of Gu Shan, giving off a low chime. "Xiao." At the same time, lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. "Jade pendant. Adorable, requests you to provide it with 300 soul points." Gu Shan looked at her inventory bag in surprise, then at the jade pendant in front of her. My inventory bag was clearly closed. This jade gourd is able to freely come and go without being restrained by the law of space. Gu Shan reached her hand out, took the jade pendant, and sent it another 300 soul points. Receiving the soul points, the jade pendant happily chimed and flew back into the inventory bag. Gu Shan scanned it with her inner sight. The jade pendant had once again fallen silent inside the inventory bag. From the looks of it, it had fallen asleep again. Gu Shan lightly sighed. "Eat and sleep. Sleep and eat again? I'm so envious. A treasure from the bygone era should be reliable, right? If nothing else, I'll just treat it as a pet." While consoling herself, Gu Shan finished the roast chicken. He drank another bottle of liquor, then happily leaned back on his throne and began to digest his food. Seeing him like this, Luo Bingley speechlessly asked, "So we're just going to stay here like this?" Gu Shan asked, "How's the jade disc going?" "The hardest parts have all been completed. I can complete them at any time if I want to," Luo Bingley replied. "In other words, we can leave at any time we want," Gu Shan said. "That's right, we can leave right away. If you want to give up on becoming the Divine King," Luo Bingley replied. "Do you think I should give up?" Gu Shan asked. "I don't know what's the point of continuing. You can go search for the Heaven Sword right now." Luo Bingley stared at him, then suddenly asked, "Or, because this is the Soul Shrieker's scheme, you want to give up?" Gu Shan sighed. "It's impossible to stop a human from forging the Heaven Sword, and it's even more impossible to give up. Regardless of what kind of scheme or trap it is, I have to save the Earth Sword. If the Earth Sword is a part of a certain weapon, then I'll dismantle that weapon. Come, let's take a look at the current situation." Saying so, Gu Shan casually released a frigid fog. The cold mist condensed into a lifelike human cultivator in the air. Gu Shan explained, "The current situation is like this. Humanity can't win against the divinities. At most, 1 or 2 human cultivators can win against the divinities. But that's meaningless." As she spoke, the fog began to move. The human cultivator turned into a divinity with a frosty flame burning between his eyebrows. Although the divinities are temporarily ruling over humanity, they can't win against the truly powerful, desolate monsters. The divinity returned to the fog. The fog once again manifested as a ferocious monster. The desolate monsters only listened to the Lord of Desolation's orders, which is also the Soul Shrieker. The fog once again moved and manifested as a strange half-man, half-woman creature. The Soul Shrieker is an entity that cannot be communicated with. As well as our greatest enemy, the desolate monsters are under its rule, so they also cannot listen to us. Because of that, the power we have can only be used by the divinities. Gu Shan waved her hand, dispersing the frigid fog in the air. In other words, if I arrive at humanity's final moment and arrive at the Heaven Sword's location, if the Soul Shrieker appears, no one will be able to help me, and I'll definitely die. That's why I need to prepare a bit more power, even if it comes from the divine race. Furthermore, I also need to find out how much the divine race knows about humanity's final preparations, to prevent them from also going to the true moment to cause trouble. Hearing this long explanation, Luo Bingley finally felt relieved. I understand. Then I'll wait for you to come up with a solution. Seeing that the other party was convinced, Gu Qingshan calmed down. Luo Bingley was in charge of managing the humans' forging of the Heaven Sword, so her identity is basically the same as the figure of light. If there's anything, I have to let her know so that we don't become estranged. Not to mention, turning into the god of frost and chill cost a total of 900,000 soul points. Right now, the war god UI is acting like a little wife, plundering people's wealth every day, so I don't have a way to obtain that amount of soul points. Not to mention, I now hold this divinity's power, so I have the same fighting strength as him. Once I return to my human body, these powers and skills will be greatly reduced. Chapter 866. Gu Qingshan sat on the divine throne and silently waited. He was waiting for the figure of light to return. The golden flame divinity's choice would affect his entire plan from now on. If the golden flame divinity passed the figure of light's test, then Gu Qingshan would have no choice but to accept him. Time passed. Another day went by. It had been 5 days since the previous divine king and the god of frost and chill died. 2 more days until the new divinity would be born. Gu Qingshan decided to wait until the last day. If the figure of light still didn't return, he was prepared to give up his divinity body and leave with Luo Bingley. At this point, 2 divine guards flew into the grand divine palace and knelt on one knee. Your Majesty, the light divinity has arrived. He wishes to see you. He came alone? Gu Qingshan asked. Yes, Your Majesty, the divine guard replied. Gu Qingshan smiled and said, let him in a few moments later. The figure of light was led into the grand divine palace. He bowed to Gu Qingshan. Greetings, Your Majesty. What was the result? Gu Qingshan asked directly. The figure of light sighed and replied in a low voice. As you expected, Your Majesty. Gu Qingshan looked at the figure of light and asked curiously, what did you bring the golden flame divinity to do? I brought him to a phantom image that was completely taken over by our divine race. I told him that Gu Qingshan was inside that phantom image, the figure of light replied. That clearly wasn't the truth, Gu Qingshan refuted. Indeed, I created an illusion to see if he would abandon the old divine race at a crucial moment. To kill his target, he wouldn't even care about the lives of our ancestors, the figure of light replied. Gu Qingshan continued. And then, to kill Gu Qingshan, he really did sacrifice the benefits of our old divine race. Indeed, the figure of light replied. Gu Qingshan waved her hand dismissively and coldly asked, you didn't kill him? I directly returned. Why? The one who holds humanity's ultimate secret is the human cultivator Gu Qingshan from several tens of thousands of years in the future. We thought that if we worked together with the golden flame divinity to kill him and seize the secrets of humanity from him, we would be able to save everything. But now, we've learned the truth from you. Against an unstoppable entity like the Soul Shrieker, the person of Gu Qingshan is no longer important. The figure of light paused a bit, then spoke a bit confusedly. Everything we've prepared is useless against the ruler of the desolate race and the 7-colored spear in his hand. Let alone the eternal true God, we really can't think of anything. In the face of the truth of history, where should the Protoss go? Gu Qingshan fell silent after hearing the question. This was also a problem he was considering for the human race. The Soul Shrieker would never allow anyone to ruin its plans. The previous deity, King, secretly imitated the human race and created the 6 Paths reincarnation, but he was killed by Zhongyu. Who could escape from such a powerful and vigilant existence? Who could go against it? Luo Bingley stood on one side and coldly observed with a hesitant expression. She fully understood the difficulty of this, as well as the huge predicament humanity and the divine race were facing. But what could she do? At that moment, the guides of the divine race, the guides of humanity, as well as the future cultivators who opened the phantom images of the age of old, had all gathered in the Grand Divine Palace. They all fell into deep thought. The entire Grand Divine Palace was silent. A few moments later, suddenly, a divine guard flew in, knelt on one knee, and reported, "Your Majesty, the golden flame divinity has returned. He wishes to see you." Gu Qing-shan glanced at the figure of light in surprise. Does he know that he's in an illusion? Gu Qing-shan asked. He probably doesn't, the figure of light replied. Gu Qing-shan muttered. I thought he would return to the future after killing the illusionary Gu Qing-shan. Why did he come here? Gu Qing-shan calmed down. He suddenly smiled and ordered, summon all the divinities as well as the 16 divine guards to the Grand Divine Palace. No one is to be absent. Understood. The divine guards received their orders. After all the divinities had gathered in the Grand Divine Palace, Gu Qing-shan ordered again, summon the Golden Flame Divinity. Understood. A few moments later, the Golden Flame Divinity entered the Grand Divine Palace. He looked at all the deities gathered in the hall in surprise and groaned in his mind. I know all of the God of Frost and Chill's abilities and weaknesses, so if I suddenly attack, it's very likely that my ambush will succeed. If that's the case, other than me, no divinity would be able to obtain the Heaven Sword. Unfortunately, this God of Frost and Chill, who already knew that he would die in the future, is extremely cautious and cautious. Seems like I have no choice but to do it openly. While he was thinking, the Grand Divine King on the throne had already spoken. Golden Flame Divinity, did you come to say goodbye to us? The Golden Flame Divinity regained his composure and spoke with a triumphant smile. Your Divine Majesty, that is indeed the case. I've finally killed Gu Qing-shan. The audience hall went silent. The divinities all stared at him. The figure of light didn't say a word. Luo Bingley looked up at Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan asked with interest, You found him? How'd you kill him? The Golden Flame Divinity sighed. I made a few sacrifices, using the flesh and blood of several divine race brethren in exchange for the desolate race's trust. They allowed me to enter the desolate world to kill Gu Qing-shan, and I quickly succeeded. Hearing the Golden Flame Divinity's words, the other divinities' expressions changed a bit. The Golden Flame Divinity didn't notice and spoke emotionally. I need to return to my era. After all, history was changed because of me, and the future has also caused a chain reaction. I need to return to deal with a lot of situations. Gu Qing-shan elegantly waved her hand and replied, Go ahead. The Golden Flame Divinity stood still. Is there something else? Gu Qing-shan asked. There is something else. It's related to the Heaven Sword, the Golden Flame Divinity replied. Gu Qing-shan slowly said, The matter of the Heaven Sword is actually a trap that you can't understand. If you want to find it, I won't stop you. The Golden Flame Divinity questioned further. Then what about you? Me. Gu Qing-shan shook her head deprecatingly. For the sake of our race's fate, I have no choice but to think of a way to get close to it. In other words, a battle between you and I will eventually occur, the Golden Flame Divinity said. You don't need to worry about me. If you can obtain the Heaven Sword, I will only wish you a long life. Gu Qing-shan smiled and replied. The Golden Flame Divinity was a bit confused. Who cares? This God of Frost and Chill has already received the Figure of Light's support, so he might leave this phantom image and become a powerful competitor for me. From the perspective of history, the desolate race didn't know about the Heaven Sword at all. Although humanity created the Heaven Sword, they weren't strong enough to be feared. Among the divine race, only this God of Frost and Chill could compete with me. In other words, if I defeat him, the Heaven Sword will be mine. The Golden Flame Divinity made up his mind. He circulated all the power in his body and unleashed a blinding light that illuminated the entire divine palace. Come, God of Frost and Chill, fight against me. We shall see who is qualified to obtain the Heaven Sword. The divinities were all surprised. It was very rare for someone to challenge the Divine King in public. So normally, no one would interfere when it happened. They didn't think this divinity from the future would dare to challenge the divine king. How would the divine king react? The divinities all looked at Gu Qin Shan. Gu Qin Shan, on the other hand, looked at the figure of light. The figure of light remained silent for a long time. What is your decision? Gu Qin Shan asked for the last time. The figure of light looked at her and still said nothing. Gu Qin Shan nodded. Very well, I will decide. He leaned back on the divine throne and asked the golden flame divinity, "Do you really want to fight?" The golden flame divinity's presence rose to its peak and shouted, "That's right, come and fight me fairly. Let everyone see who is qualified to pursue the heaven sword." Gu Qin Shan calmly asked, "One last question. What are you going to do with the heaven sword?" The golden flame divinity paused briefly, then quickly answered, "I am going to use it to change the future of our divine race." Gu Qin Shan pursued further, "You want to take it back to your future?" The golden flame divinity nodded. "Isn't it obvious? Is this divine king an idiot, asking the same question over and over again? What exactly is he trying to do?" On the throne, Gu Qin Shan sighed with a disappointed expression. At this point, the divinities couldn't hold themselves back anymore. "We can't let him take the heaven sword. That is a powerful weapon that can change everything. He's already killed Gu Qin Shan, and he still wants the heaven sword. Outrageous. He took the heaven sword. What do we do now?" "The heaven sword is ours. We need to change our fate of certain death," the divinities discussed in a low voice. Their voices were getting louder and louder. All of a sudden, a divinity clad in a bright yellow flame jumped out. "You dare to challenge the divine king? You'll have to get past me first." The golden flame divinity's expression changed and tried to stop him. "Wait a minute, I want to." He didn't have time to say anything. The divinity charged straight at him. The golden flame divinity didn't want to get hurt, so he had no choice but to face him head-on. The duel began. The divinities watched with bated breath. The figure of light remained silent and didn't try to stop him. Luo Bingli sneaked a glance at Gu Qin Shan. Chapter 867. The battle ended as quickly as it came. After all, the golden flame divinity came from the future, so he had studied and understood every divinity in history. He wasn't weak in the first place. Combined with knowing all of his opponent's abilities and weaknesses, he quickly defeated his opponent. At this point, Gu Qin Shan casually said, "Go, capture him." The 16 divine guards and numerous divinities surrounded the golden flame divinity, not waiting for him to unleash any powerful attacks before charging forward. No matter how powerful the golden flame divinity was, he wasn't a match for so many divinities from the age of old and was captured on the spot. He roared in unwillingness, "Divine King, you don't even dare to fight a fair battle against me." Gu Qin Shan calmly replied, "My life is much more valuable than a fair battle." He raised his hand and gestured. Boundless coldness began to rise from the golden flame divinity's feet. The crystal-clear white frost froze the golden flame divinity's feet and spread up his body. Wherever the frigid aura went, the golden flames would also disappear. The golden flame divinity's expression finally changed. "If I didn't come from the future, I would have been the same as the other divinities, unable to understand the true power of this technique." This was the god of frost and chill's ultimate hidden technique, frost extinction. The wave of extreme coldness would cause all living beings to fall into eternal silence. Even he wouldn't be able to go against this technique. But such a powerful technique still had a huge flaw. It required time to charge up, and it was extremely hard to hit the opponent. Now that he was being captured by the divinities and couldn't move at all, this flaw had been eliminated. "How dare you? I'm a fellow divinity from the future." The golden flame divinity shouted. "You've never helped us divinities from the age of old, and even did something that disappointed me at the very last moment," the divine king coldly replied. The frost continued to spread. The golden flame divinity hurriedly looked at the figure of light and loudly declared, "My mission is complete. Please send me back. I don't want to stay here any longer." The figure of light hesitantly looked at Gu Qin Shan. Gu Qin Shan shook her head. manipulated the elemental ice with both hands to continue frost extinction, and spoke. You represent the future he seemed to be contemplating for a long time as he spoke very slowly. But you represent a future that we do not want. While they were talking, the golden flame divinity was completely restrained by the other divinities, unable to resist at all, and quickly turned into a statue made of ice. Thud! A long ice staff flew through the air and pierced the center of the statue. The entire human-shaped statue shattered into countless small ice shards and fell to the ground. The golden flame god from the future died in the hands of the God King, just like that. The Divine King's voice rang from the throne on the high platform. When your life returns to silence and slumber, the past and present of the entire era will grow and strengthen with your tombstone as the foundation, giving birth to a new future. That is the new destiny of our god race. Inside the grand divine palace, none of the divinities made sound. They knelt on one knee and bowed respectfully to the Divine King on the throne. No one had ever seen this kind of ice magic. Previously, some people had been muttering in their hearts that the Celestial King was avoiding the battle, but now that they saw it, the Celestial King had killed the Golden Flame Divinity with a single strike. With such a powerful force, there was no need for a duel. The Divine King will definitely lead everyone to change the fate of death and surpass the desolate race. The divinities all looked at the Divine King with reverence, while the Divine King was staring at the void of space, as if he could see the future of the divine race. His entire being exuded a solemn and dignified air. In truth, he was reading the glowing text in the void of space. You've killed the Golden Flame Divinity. He was a powerful divinity from the future. After deducting the soul points you receive from the system, actual increment is 20. Gu Qing Shan silently sighed. Clink clank. A coin fell out from the ice shards. Gu Qing Shan's expression changed. The coin had already fallen into the figure of Light's hand. A coin? Why did the Age of Old have coins as well? The coins of the strife zones were said to have been forged by the divinities. Perhaps these coins were originally passed down from the Age of Old, then passed down and used by the 7 demons of strife zones. Gu Qingshan no longer dared to look down on things like coins. He didn't have anything else to say at this point, so he dismissed the divinities from the Grand Divine Palace. The palace quickly became empty. Gu Qingshan then asked, "What was that coin?" The figure of light replied, "The coin that can find Gu Qingshan. I once gave it to the Golden Flame Divinity, but he failed to live up to our will." Gu Qingshan was surprised. "Why can this coin find Gu Qingshan?" The figure of light replied, "Because within the entire phantom images, he is the only outsider, so we can sense his movements through the coin and track him." It glanced at Luo Bingley. Gu Qingshan understood and casually waved her hand to freeze Luo Bingley inside a large block of ice. The figure of light seems to want to tell her a great secret, so I'll have to trouble her for now. The figure of light then explained, "Coins represent value and power, a common item of humanity in the bygone era, the bygone era." Gu Qingshan couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. The common coins of strife zones were created by the divinities from the Age of Old, so they had various functions and knowledge. But it turns out they were all from humanity in the bygone era. The figure of light continued. Humanity liked to endow coins with different levels of power, using them as a means of exchange and circulation. After humanity left, there weren't that many coins left in this world. The desolate race had collected all of them. They were a bunch of fools. We tried everything we could think of, but in the end, we managed to come to an agreement with them and obtain the chance to come into contact with coins, Your Divine Majesty. As you know, our divine race's strongest ability is to learn and imitate through imitation. We managed to obtain a portion of the coin's secrets, as well as a shocking secret. What secret? Gu Qingshan asked. The figure of light looked at her for a long while, without saying anything. "What is it? If it's inconvenient, you don't have to tell me," Gu Qingshan casually said. The figure of light shook his head. "There's a condition for knowing this secret. Tell me about it. I'll ask one more thing. Is your will to save the divine race still as firm as before?" "Of course, You must promise me, after knowing this secret, you will leave this era and follow me into the other phantom images. Then, at the final moment of the Age of Old, you will enter the true era of existence, your divine majesty. I will do my best to help you, but your responsibility is to lead the divine race through the danger of extinction. Gu Shan thought briefly and nodded. Very well, the figure of light then asked, do you know why the bygone era humanity had to leave the primordial heaven realm? I don't. Gu Shan sat up straight and answered with a serious expression. He could already sense that he was about to hear an unprecedented secret. Sure enough, the figure of light continued. Our divine race's forte lies in our ability to learn and imitate. So we investigated the desolate race's collection of coins and identified the 3 most valuable bygone era coins. These 3 bygone era coins represent the highest value. Each of them has a secret connection to 3 unimaginable powers. These 3 powers are the Great Bramble Tree, the Angel of Condemnation, and the Demon King of Order. When these 3 powers are gathered together, they can reverse the flow of all things, revive the dead, and stop the fate of all living beings from advancing. Gu Shan silently listened. His heart stopped for a bit. The Angel of Condemnation. That's a little dusk. Now that I think about it, I once asked her if she knew the secret of the coins. What did she say at the time? No, you can't use the same method you use to measure wealth, to measure truth and secrets. Chapter 868. Gu Shan once obtained a coin that could create a fridge out of thin air. At first, he thought that it was a magical artifact designed by the divinities. But as time passed, he found out that the coins had even more important functions and secrets. He even obtained a replica coin that allowed him to travel 5 minutes in time. And now he knew the truth about the coins. They were created by the humans of the bygone era, containing a shocking amount of power and secrets. I'm guessing that our divine race once replicated many of the coins from the bygone era, Gu Shan said. The figure of light replied, indeed, after your death, the next divine king who succeeded the throne would discover the secret of the coins. At the time, many replicas of the coins have been replicated. Other than the 3 I mentioned just now, the replicas of the other coins have continued. Gu Shan cracked her neck a bit uncomfortably and said, listening to someone else talk about what happened after my death is a bit uncomfortable. The figure of light replied, once you come with me and see more history, you'll slowly get used to it. Gu Shan casually asked, then, where exactly are the last 3 coins? During the time when our relationship with the desolate race was at its best, they allowed us to communicate with them. We took that chance to find out the secret of the coins. They knew nothing about it, but the coins belonged to them. The figure of light replied, you didn't try to retrieve the 3 coins? Gu Shan asked. The divine race will be discovered as soon as they entered the desolate world. So we imitated the bygone era humans and created a technique that allows us to disguise ourselves as humans. I've also used this technique on you. After several attempts, we finally obtained the 3 coins. The figure of light replied. Then what are you waiting for? You can use the power of the coins. Gu Shan asked in confusion. We can't, the figure of light sighed. These 3 coins must be infused with the power they represent in order to be effective. We did manage to contact the Great Bramble Tree through the coins, as well as discover the resting place of the Angel of Condemnation. Because of the coins, the Great Bramble Tree was willing to help us once. The figure of light continued. As for the Angel of Condemnation, we used the coin to awaken her. When she woke up, she didn't remember what happened in the bygone era, as if she had forgotten everything. Gu Shan narrowed her eyes and said, how could this be? Was it because the bygone era humans were afraid that she would remember how to use the 3 powers? The figure of light replied, it is very likely. So we told her that she was our creation and gave her a lot of care, allowing her to slowly accept her identity. Gu Shan remained silent. So that's how it is. So she had already existed since the bygone era, only she had lost her memories. Come to think of it, Xiaoxi was as pure as a piece of white paper, so it was only natural that she would be deceived it appeared that the deck of cards she possessed was not created by the divine race, but rather a power inheritance from the bygone era humans. It was no wonder that a jade card could be so powerful. If her power was at its peak, it was hard to imagine how powerful the cards she possessed would be. With Xiaoxi's identity and strength, no wonder the divinities were so wary of her. Gu Qingshan replied without changing her expression. Of the 3 powers, you've already obtained 2 of them. Only the Demon King of Order remains. This seems to be the order of humanity. Did you not manage to borrow the power of this order? The figure of light replied. This was the most difficult part. The Demon King of Order must be created by World's Apocalypse Online. Demon King Order. And the entire human race can only have a single Demon King, but we do not allow the Demon King to appear. Why not? Gu Qingshan asked. Because the Demon King's appearance represents that World Apocalypse Online. Demon King Order has matured. This is a crucial factor for the other orders to awaken. As long as the Demon King is willing, he would be able to awaken the other orders. We cannot allow such a situation to occur. The figure of light's tone became cold. Once the other orders awaken, humanity will enter an era of rapid growth and prosperity. Our rule will come to an end. Gu Qingshan asked in return. Then why did you release this order in the first place? The figure of light replied. The order came from the arrangements of the bygone era humans before they left. It was unstoppable. Even if we in the desolate race did everything we could only change the order in which the order would appear. Gu Qingshan fell into thought. So the root of everything was still the Demon King Order. For humanity, this order was the most vicious of all the orders. Combined with the divinity's incitement and deception, humanity viewed the Demon King Order as their enemy. The Demon King Order shouldn't have been accepted by the majority of humanity, because only a single person could reach the peak of this order and become the Demon King. Only when the Demon King appears would the other orders slowly awaken and humanity once again flourish. The bygone era, humans definitely didn't expect that after so many years, the order would still remain dormant, while their compatriots were still being enslaved by the divine race, the desolate race, and even the eternal true God. This was truly regrettable. Gu Qingshan pondered a bit and asked, after I die, how would the future divine kings deal with the Demon King Order? As soon as someone carries an order, both humanity and we would find them and kill them, the figure of light replied. Our divine race can't carry an order. Unfortunately, we can't. Gu Qingshan continued. Then, I have a very important question. Is it possible that only the Demon King can transfer the power of the Demon King Order into the coin and fuse it with the other 2 powers? The figure of light replied, that is not the case. Once the order evolves to the point where the Demon King Order descends, an order carrier at that stage would also be able to do it, but the final power they receive would be weakened. Gu Qingshan continued. If that is the case, I already have a solution. The figure of light was surprised. You have a solution? He trembled as he asked. The divine race had spent countless years trying to come up with a way to deal with everything. But now the god of frost and frost said that he had a solution. Listen, it's like this. Gu Qingshan cleared her throat and spoke in a low voice. We need to choose a single person and help them carry the Demon King Order, but we will strictly control their progress and not let them become the Demon King. Once we've successfully fused the 3 powers together, we'll kill them. The figure of light didn't say anything. He was completely shocked by this idea. Throughout their long history, the divine race had never considered having the order and humanity work together, nor did they hope for the relationship between the 2 of them to ease up even a little bit. This was an extremely dangerous strategy, no different from dancing on the edge of a bottomless cliff. But if they use humanity to obtain the power of order, then kill them, all threats would disappear, and their goal would also be achieved. It was that simple after thinking about it. It was completely feasible. Even inside the giant block of ice, Luo Bingli's eyes twitched a bit. This wasn't noticed by Gu Qingshan and the figure of light. The grand divine palace fell silent. After a while, the figure of light finally spoke up with difficulty. Even if he isn't the Demon King, once the order reaches the Demon King Ascension stage, the human cultivator will become unprecedentedly powerful and won't be easy to kill, Gu Qing coldly declared. All divinities at once, the figure of light went silent for a while longer. Finally, it spoke. This is a gamble. We'll fail if we're not careful. We'll all die in the future. If that's the case, what's the harm in taking a gamble? Gu Qing said. The figure of light spoke. If we want to do this, we need to find a suitable human cultivator. Who do you think we should look for? Gu Qing replied. Of course it should be Gu Qing. The figure of light was a bit surprised and asked hesitantly. Why him? Because Gu Qing came from the future, she understands the order very well. So she can easily accept such a thing, Gu Qing patiently explained. According to the Golden Flame divinity, in the future, the Demon King order still hasn't produced a true Demon King, and the many orders haven't been awakened. Humanity has always hated the Demon King order. That's why he wouldn't want to become the Demon King, nor would he want to awaken more orders. He knows nothing about this, the figure of light asked. Why would he help us? The Heaven Sword. I promised to help him obtain the Heaven Sword, Gu Qing replied. The Heaven Sword? Indeed, the Golden Flame divinity said that Gu Qing has the Earth Sword on her, and the twin swords Heaven and Earth were the eternal true God's scheme. The weapons he wanted to forge, Gu Qing gave the figure of light some time to digest this information. After a while, he spoke. When the twin swords Heaven and Earth appear, the eternal true God would also appear. He has been waiting for the twin swords. There's no need for us to do anything. Gu Qing will die. That's why before we help him obtain the Heaven Sword, we must first help him carry the order, become the carrier of the Demon King Ascension state, use him to complete the fusion of the three powers, and then, the figure of light instinctively repeated. And then he will be able to meet the eternal true God and face his own death. Gu Qing's voice softened. At this time, we will use the power that surpasses space and time to avoid the end of this era, as well as avoid the desolate race's slaughter of us. Even if this action would draw the attention of some unknown, terrifying entity, that would be something that the eternal true God and Gu Qing would have to face, while our divine race will travel through space and time to travel. To the future, several 10,000 years later, all of our brethren of the divine race will survive. Chapter 869. Hearing that, the figure of light fell into thought. The divine race's natural vigilance made it impossible for it to cooperate with humanity. Indeed, the divine race had never cooperated with humanity, but there was no other way. The Divine King's suggestion seemed to be a completely new idea, one that the divine race had never tried before. The figure of light thought for a while, then asked again, Why Gu Qing? Gu Qing replied, Because he understands the order and can quickly complete the evolution of the order, he patiently explained, and also because he isn't a person of this era. He also came from the future. Just look at the Golden Flame divinity. He doesn't care about the fate of the people of this era at all. He wouldn't give up his own benefits for the sake of humanity of this era. He will definitely cooperate with us for the sake of obtaining the Heaven Sword. Furthermore, he's still too weak, according to Golden Flame. He hasn't even reached the level of a passable cultivator. Even if he carries the order, his final strength will be very limited, making him much easier to kill compared to the cultivators of this era. Even if there are any changes, we can still easily kill him. If everything goes smoothly, let him take the twin swords Heaven and Earth to meet the eternal true God. That will be the moment when both he and the order die, the figure of light refuted. Once the people carrying the order die, the order won't die, but it will fall into slumber. The order will fall into slumber? That outcome wouldn't affect our plan at all. In fact, it would be even more beneficial to us, wouldn't it? Gu Qing asked. The figure of light thought back and forth for a long while. He hesitated, then sighed. This is the craziest of ideas. We've never thought of using humanity, nor have we ever relaxed against the order, but now we want to use their power, only by using every power we can. Will our divine race truly have a chance at survival? Gu Qing clenched her fist and declared. But, Golden Flame and I have been searching for so long without being able to catch Gu Qingshan. Are you sure you can find him? The figure of light asked. Gu Qingshan smiled. He knew that the other party was tempted. Just leave this small matter to this king. Just because an idiot like Golden Flame couldn't do it doesn't mean this king can't, Gu Qingshan said slowly. The figure of light seemed to have made up his mind and spoke even faster. Very well. I'll leave the matter of Gu Qingshan to you. As for the great bramble tree and the angel of condemnation, I need to make preparations first before meeting up with you, Gu Qingshan replied. Don't worry, by the time you arrive, I guarantee that I'll have already found Gu Qingshan and reached an agreement with him. The figure of light stared at him without saying a word. What's wrong? Gu Qingshan smiled, quietly preparing for battle. You are the most flexible and resourceful divine king I have ever seen. This is the fortune of our divine race, the figure of light said. Everything is for the divine race, Gu Qingshan resolutely declared. Yes, everything is for the god race. The figure of light praised. It flew out of the divine king palace and disappeared into the void of the sky beyond heaven. Another moment passed. It was now that Gu Qingshan slowly calmed down. He leaned back on the divine throne, his eyes a bit blank. In such a short amount of time, he analyzed the situation, came up with a strategy, made a decision, and convinced the other party. Even he felt a bit tired. Closing his eyes, Gu Qingshan waved his hand. The giant block of ice that froze Luo Bingley instantly disappeared. Luo Bingley regained her senses and stared at Gu Qingshan with her almond eyes. After a bit of hesitation, she asked, "What did the figure of light tell you?" Gu Qingshan told her everything. Luo Bingley silently listened until Gu Qingshan finished and sighed. "You're playing with fire. It's fine. I can handle it," Gu Qingshan replied. "What are we going to do now?" Luo Bingley asked. "The divine race will no longer try to stop me from obtaining the twin swords heaven and earth. So we'll just need to find the swords when the time is right," Gu Qingshan replied. "What if the soul shrieker appears?" Luo Bingley reminded her. Gu Qingshan replied, "After we get the swords, I'll take you with me. We'll use that power that allows us to travel through time to the future," Luo Bingley replied. "The figure of light will definitely stop us at that time. I'll think of a solution for that," Gu Qingshan said. Luo Bingley fell silent. She seemed to have a lot on her mind. But Gu Qingshan didn't have the time to say anything else to her right now. He was even more concerned about her situation. Ting! A clear chime resounded in his ears. The war god OS had actively sent a communication request. "We've come to a decision," Gu Qingshan, the war god UI told him. "A decision? What kind of decision?" Gu Qingshan asked in a low voice. From the other party's tone, he could hear a sense of seriousness. The war god UI replied, "In your past life, you were the carrier of the Demon King Order. In this life, you also carried the Demon King Order, but in the past several 10,000 years, you will carry the Demon King Order again. Your connection to the Demon King Order is filled with the past, present, and future, so the disguise I put up during the final moments of your past life has already begun to break. Once you carry the Demon King Order again, the chaos of space-time will erupt. On your body, you will become a blinding beacon within the infinite space-time, attracting the attention of unfathomable and unknown horrors." Gu Qingshan's heart tensed up. If that's the case, wouldn't I be the same as the bygone-era humanity, attracting the attention of those existences that could destroy everything? Gu Qingshan sighed and replied, "Carrying the Demon King Order again is the best strategy one can come up with, and it has already been accepted by the figure of light. It is already preparing for this. If I go back on my word now, it will definitely become suspicious. Not to mention, if I give up now, I won't be able to save the Earths or the war god UI replied. You must make a choice now, whether you want to give up on carrying the order or return to your past life, and complete the disguise I put up. I remember you saying that you can no longer take me through space-time." Gu Qingshan replied, "That's right, you can't take me through any other space-time, but I left a mark of space-time in your past life. This is the path of your life. You can go there again. The soul points I asked for before were all in preparation for this moment. If I go back, what should I do?" Gu Qingshan asked. Give me to your past self, the war god Ui replied. A dagger appeared in front of Gu Qingshan's vision. This was a golden dagger. The blade of the dagger didn't have any unnecessary patterns on it. It was glowing brightly. A faint layer of golden light flowed endlessly around the dagger like a tidal wave. Looking at this golden dagger, Gu Qingshan suddenly recalled when she first returned to this world. She was holding this dagger in her hand. This was the true form of the war god Ui. The war god Ui's voice came. This is the best chance. At this moment, you came from the future, but also the past, as well as representing your own present. Go back to your past life and give me to your past self. This way, a perfect closed loop will be formed between space-time. From now on, no one will be able to pry into my true origins. Gu Qingshan went silent briefly, then softly asked, "Would the current me lose you?" The war god Ui replied, "You can only temporarily lose me for the future you to obtain me." "When will that be?" Gu Qingshan asked. The war god Ui replied, "When you bring the twin swords heaven and earth back several 10,000 years in the future, from the perspective of causality, this entire matter will have become a causality. At that time, according to the law of causality, I will once again appear on your body." Gu Qingshan couldn't help but shake her head. "If I choose this path, I will lose the war god Ui and have to fight alone in the age of old. But to save the Earth Sword, to save everything I care about, this is a must. Only by losing the war god Ui would I be able to safely carry the Demon King order and work hard to change everything." Gu Qingshan fell silent. "I've already gotten used to fighting with the system, but now I'll have to return to being alone. Fighting alone, facing countless dangers of life and death without any notifications, without any other entities by my side." The war god Ui waited for a while, then asked, "I'll ask you one last time. Do you want to give up carrying the Demon King order, or do you want to return to your past life and find your past self?" Gu Qingshan took a deep breath and shouted, "Come, let us do this." "Very well," the war god Ui replied in satisfaction. Lines of glowing text quickly appeared on the war god Ui. Request accepted. Releasing all soul points. Space-time return coordinates confirmed. Returning to your past life. 5, 4, 3, 1, depart. Everything in the grand divine palace fell silent. A golden glow enveloped Gu Qingshan. Chapter 870. Inside the grand divine palace. Time was still. The dust in the air, the warm light, the tranquil breeze, Luo Bingley who was standing still. Everything was still at this moment. Gu Qingshan walked into a cluster of golden light and disappeared. The cluster of golden light slowly shrunk, scattered into specks of light, and quickly faded away. At the very last moment, Luo Bingley moved. Her whole body was freed from the frozen state, and her gaze lightly fell on the golden light. To be able to leave directly from here, how rare, she muttered and reached her hand out to grab a speck of golden light that was about to fade away. The speck of golden light seemed to have noticed her existence and quickly expanded, turning into a golden dagger. The war god Ui appeared. "Who exactly are you?" the golden dagger asked. "And who are you?" Luo Bingley asked in return. The golden dagger didn't waste any more words and gave off a blinding light. Under the illumination of the light, Luo Bingley looked like a beautiful young girl standing in the morning sun. She carefully sensed the golden light and coldly asked, "Are you investigating me? You're not a normal cultivator. You're..." A surprised voice came from the golden dagger. It seemed to understand something. So that's why the golden dagger sighed. "If you already know, then please don't tell anyone who I am. Furthermore, can you let me see what's happening on your side? If you refuse, I'll erase the space-time coordinates of this place. You won't be able to return," Luo Bingley told her. "You can't threaten me with anything you say, but because of Gu Qingshan, I can agree," the war god Ui replied. The golden dagger drew a line in the air. A screen of light appeared in front of Luo Bingley. On the screen, Gu Qingshan was quickly flying through the fog of space-time. "Thank you," Luo Bingley said in satisfaction. The golden dagger ignored her and disappeared into the void of space. Within the fog of space-time, Gu Qingshan was flying at full speed. This was a world completely made up of fog and squares. Each square represented a time zone, and the time zones were connected to each other, forming a complete flow of time from the past to the future. All existences existed in each square, unable to transcend the dimensional limits of time and space. Who would have thought that space-time would be divided into squares from this perspective? I've never seen anything like this before, Gu Qingshan commented. Both you and I will be taking this path for the first time. The war god Yui's voice came. This time, we'll be using a temporary path from another higher dimension to return. Technological paths have always been relatively safe and won't attract any prying eyes. Of course, we can't go too far. As he spoke, an extremely powerful force came over. Gu Qingshan was pulled into one of the squares. The world was spinning. Darkness engulfed them. Then, the whole world gradually became clear in front of him. The flames of war surged. Smoke filled the sky. On the other side of the river, the battle was at its most critical moment. The human race was about to perish. Groups of armored soldiers knelt on the ground, causing the figure of one of the armored generals to be particularly conspicuous. Gu Qingshan stared at that figure and sighed deeply. That's him, the him of the past life. Ting! The war god Yui's voice came. Gu Qingshan, take a look at the golden glow around your body. What is this? Gu Qingshan asked. The world isolation barrier will disappear in 15 breaths worth of time, at which point the people of this world will be able to see you. Be careful. You must complete everything within 15 breaths worth of time, without stopping. Otherwise, the living beings of the past life will see two of you. If that happens, one of the two of you will be erased by the law of time. Understood. What should I do next? Gu Qingshan spoke in a low voice. I will activate Time Stanch in a moment. You must take advantage of that time to send me into the hands of your past life. Be careful. You must be fast, but also not let the past you notice anything, Gu Qingshan replied. Don't worry. I'm currently in the Divine King's body. With my strength, it's very simple to accomplish this. What should we do after that? The war god Yui replied. I will immediately bring the past you back to the beginning of everything. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. When everything began, it was during the reign of Cheng Ping, when humanity first came into contact with the demons. On a stormy night, outside an empty military camp, a cook was patrolling the camp. I woke up from a pit of corpses. Gu Qingshan recalled everything at the time and sighed. What should I do now that you're gone? He asked. The war god Yui replied. Once this world is destroyed, the origin power of the collapsed world will explode. When that power reaches you, due to the mutual repulsion between the two laws of space-time, you will be kicked back from this place. That doesn't sound too complicated, Gu Qingshan replied. The war god Yui patiently reminded him. Remember, after you return, even if I'm not here, you will still have the ability to absorb soul points. After I leave, nothing will be able to take away your soul points. You must make good use of it. It is one of the strongest sources of power. Is there a limit to how much soul points I can absorb? Gu Qingshan seriously asked. There is. Then I understand. At this point, in the military camp on the other side of the river, the past lives Gu Qingshan had already flown into the sky. Countless flying swords appeared from the void of space and followed him as he rode the wind. Sword array, mutual destruction. With a sword in hand, Gu Qingshan charged straight towards the gigantic, demonic figure in the sky. In the military camp below him, countless voices resounded within the intense wind. Mr. Gu, we're going together. Together with you. On the other side of the river, Gu Qingshan lowered his gaze. Seeing this scene from the past life again, he felt a bit dejected. Don't waste any time, it's time. The war god Yui urged him. Gu Qingshan replied. Divine skill, ground shrink. In a split second, he disappeared from the ground and reappeared in the sky. He used the power of the Divine King to hide in the void of space, staring at his past self as he flew up. Then, a golden short sword appeared in his hand. Ready. The war god Yui's voice came from the golden short sword. Boom. A blinding light swept across the world, turning into endless white light in the void of space. Immediately, the entire world became stagnant. Everything suddenly slowed down, and all sound disappeared. Gu Shan saw his past self flying towards the demon lord at an extremely slow speed. He saw himself opening his mouth and roaring. The power of countless cultivators converged into a blinding sword phantom that killed the gigantic demon lord that blocked out the sky. Tom stopped at this very moment. The light became even brighter. "Hurry, now!" The war god Ui's voice came from the golden shortsword. Gu Shan gritted his teeth, rushed forward, and put the golden shortsword into his past self's hand. "Take care," he said. "You take care as well," the war god Ui replied. Within the intense wind, a golden light flashed. In an instant, Gu Shan disappeared from this world with the golden shortsword in his hand. Everything was over. Seeing the war god Ui taking his past self away, Gu Shan immediately used ground shrink and disappeared from the sky. The concealment power on his body was about to dissipate, so he definitely couldn't let anyone see him. Gu Shan flew into the river, swam all the way to the bottom, formed a presence concealment hand seal, and silently waited. He continued to wait until the world began to collapse. A miraculous fluctuation was released from the deepest part of the world. This fluctuation swept across the entire world. As it flew past Gu Shan, it suddenly surrounded him, enveloping him layer by layer. The more this power gathered, the stronger it became, to the point where even Gu Shan could feel some sort of immense pressure. Even with the god of frost and chill's power, he couldn't hold on much longer against this power. All of a sudden, Gu Shan noticed that this power had completely gathered at his chest and pushed him away. The void of space broke apart. In an instant, Gu Shan disappeared from this part of space-time. Several 10,000 years ago, the primordial heaven realm, the grand divine palace in the sky beyond heaven. Luo Bingli's eyebrows twitched. She quickly erased the golden light and stopped probing that area of space-time. A second later, Gu Shan fell from the void of space and crashed to the ground. Tom's stop disappeared. Everything returned to normal. But Gu Shan was still lying on the ground without moving. He was staring straight at the void of space in front of him. The familiar UI in his vision was no longer there. "System?" Gu Shan silently asked. There was no clear sound. There was no answer. Indeed, the war god system had returned to the past. A closed loop of space-time had been formed. With such perfect logic and causality, no one would be able to discover the war god system's origin. Furthermore, from now on, I can safely carry the Demon King order without causing space-time to become chaotic. A surprised voice suddenly resounded in the empty palace. "Ah?" It was Luo Bingli. She asked in surprise, "You were sitting on the Divine King's throne just now. Why did you suddenly fall to the ground?" Gu Shan smiled bitterly and tried to cover it up. "I was trying to comprehend a spell, so I accidentally made a mistake and fell down. From your expression, it seems this mistake affected you quite a bit." Luo Bingli looked at him and slowly asked, "It's not that serious, but I'll have to be a bit more serious from now on." Gu Shan stood up from the ground, slowly walked back to the Divine King's throne, and sat down. Chapter 871. The Grand Divine Palace. Gu Shan sat on his throne, feeling a bit unaccustomed. The war god UI had disappeared from his sight. The empty void of space made him feel a bit uncomfortable. A thought kept popping up in his mind. Will the system really appear when I return to the strife zones? This was a question he couldn't help but seriously ponder. Gu Shan began to analyze the entire situation bit by bit. First of all, I'm currently in a phantom image of several 10,000 years ago. Phantom images are a fragment of a parallel world. I need to think of a way to travel to a certain point in time in the real world and take the Heaven Sword. From the perspective of the timeline, this timeline is far older than the timeline I came from in my previous life. Because of that, there are a total of 3 crucial points in the timeline. The first is the Age of Old. The second is the cultivation world's year of peace. The third is the final moment I left, the strife zones inside the seal of drifting sand world. The first point is the farthest. Since I lost the war god system at that point, I naturally wouldn't be able to obtain it again. The second point is the final year of peace, when I just obtained the war god system. The first point in time and the second point in time formed a closed loop, but time always moved forward, so the timeline diverged from the second point and moved forward to the third point. After the second point in time, the war god system would always exist, so as time continues to move forward and reach the third point, the war god system would naturally still exist. So according to the most basic law of time and logic, as long as I return to the third point in time, the system would naturally return. How perfect! Gu Qin muttered to himself. He finally calmed down. What are you talking about? Luo Bingli asked. She tossed a jade disc to Gu Qin. Gu Qin caught the jade disc and habitually looked at the void of space. But there weren't any glowing lines of text there. Gu Qin smiled bitterly, looked at the jade disc in her hand, and asked, "You've finished?" "Yes, with this jade disc, we can go to the backup path at any time," Luo Bingli replied. "That's great. From now on, we only need to wait for the figure of light to return," Gu Qin said. Luo Bingli was puzzled. "Didn't you tell it that you were going to find Gu Qin? Are we just going to wait here?" "Of course not. Follow me." Gu Qin flew to her side and took out a teleportation talisman. He infused his spiritual energy into the talisman, and the teleportation talisman immediately lit up. It brought Gu Qin and Luo Bingli out of the Grand Divine Palace. Amidst the ruins, light flashed. The two of them revealed themselves. Luo Bingli looked around and said, "This is where the Drifting Moon Immortals sect used to be." "Yes, we will find Gu Qin here," Gu Qin said. He waved his hand behind him. Shanu appeared from the void of space and lightly landed in front of Gu Qin. "Gongzi, I understand. You need me to act as the Divine King," Shanu said. Leave a loading of the order to me. Just do your best as the Divine King and make sure to keep an eye on me," Gu Qin told her. "Got it," Shanu replied. Shanu's power came from the Grand Tai Wei Mountain, so she could use it whenever she wanted, unlike Gu Qin, who had to constantly challenge other combatants to accumulate soul points. She activated Mystery of All Beings Equal and quickly turned into a divinity with a blue flame burning between his eyebrows. The frigid aura around this blue flame divinity turned into ice crystals that glowed with a myriad of colors under the illumination of the light, giving off a sense of holiness. This was the god of frost and chill. "All right, now it's my turn to dispel resonance," Gu Qin said a bit reluctantly. His appearance slowly changed and returned to his original appearance. Luo Bingli was intrigued and couldn't help but ask, "You've planned for so long, spent so much effort, and even carried the Demon King order. What exactly is your goal?" Gu Qin replied, "Of course it's to obtain the Heaven Sword." Saying so, he began to think of a strategy to deal with the situation. "When the figure of light returns, I'll have to carry the order. Both in this life and the past life, I'm already very familiar with the Demon King order. Once I carry it again, I'll be able to use it without any problems. With the Demon King order, his help, my strength will once again rapidly increase. The main question is whether or not I want to become the Demon King. If I go past the figure of light's bottom line and become the Demon King, I'll definitely ruin the entire plan. But doing so will awaken the other orders." With that in mind, Gu Qin couldn't help but put her hand on her inventory bag. Large-scale war system. Water God was sleeping peacefully in the storage bag. If Water God awakens, Gu Qin thought for a while and sighed. "No, my goal is to save the Earth Sword. Only after the Earth Sword is saved will I be able to decide whether or not to do anything else based on the situation." Gu Qin silently made up her mind. At this point, Luo Bingli asked, "After you obtain the Heaven Sword, will you help the divine race or humanity?" Gu Qin looked at her. Luo Bingli smiled bitterly. "You're really good at being the Divine King. I even feel like you're more suited to be the divine race," Gu Qingshan chuckled and shook her head. Who would have thought that the trick she used to deceive the divine race would actually cause even her own people to waver? That won't do. Gu Qingshan patiently explained. You don't need to take it to heart. In truth, I'll definitely stand on humanity's side. After all, I'm a human cultivator, Luo Bingley asked. That means after you obtain the Heaven Sword, you'll go on a killing spree and eliminate all beings that aren't human. Gu Qingshan replied, killing people, or killing anything else. I'm not interested. I only want to save the Earth Sword. Luo Bingley thought for a bit, then asked, the Earth Sword? Wait a minute. Didn't you already obtain it? What happened to it? It's heavily wounded. Its artifact spirit could disappear at any moment. So my Shifu used a temporal technique to seal it away to stall for time. I heard that only the Heaven Sword can save the Earth Sword. So I need to find the Heaven Sword. Luo Bingley seriously listened to her and sighed emotionally. We already know the truth. The twin swords Heaven and Earth are actually components of a certain weapon from the Eternal Abyss. At the very last moment, you will most likely have to face the mastermind of everything. The eternal, true deity. Soul Shrieker, Gu Qingshan replied. I will gather the power of the 3 coins and try my best to escape from it. What if you can't escape? Luo Bingley asked. Then we'll fight to the death. Gu Qingshan shrugged. Is it worth it to die to obtain the twin swords Heaven and Earth? It's not like that. It would be great if I can obtain the Heaven Sword. But if I can't, as long as I can fulfill my wish, I'll be satisfied. What is your wish? Luo Bingley asked. The Earth's Salvation Sword. It's my sword, Gu Qingshan replied. Luo Bingley was a bit surprised, then lowered her head and said nothing else. Shanu suddenly said, It's here, in the sky. A blinding flash of light appeared. The figure of light descended from above. He looked at Gu Qingshan, then at the Divine King, the god of frost and chill. Your Majesty, have you reached an agreement with him? The figure of light asked. Shanu, no. The Divine King puffed out his chest and spoke seriously. This king will help Gu Qingshan find the Heaven Sword, while Gu Qingshan, as the carrier of the Order, will help this king obtain the power of the Demon King Order. This is our agreement. It's very fair, Gu Qingshan added. The figure of light looked at her, his presence slowly becoming more and more intense. Gu Qingshan calmly replied, I understand that you're restraining yourself, telling yourself not to kill me. But I have to say this very seriously. If the divine race wants to obtain the power of the Order, please try to restrain yourself. The figure of light spoke in a low voice. Do you think you can evolve the Order to the stage where the Demon King Ascension can be achieved by yourself? That's why I still need the help of the divine race. Helping me is the same as helping yourself obtain the power of the Order. I'm sure you won't refuse, Gu Qingshan replied. The figure of light spoke. Then, if you can evolve the Order to the stage where the Demon King Ascension can be achieved, I'll die, Gu Qingshan casually replied. The figure of light was finally satisfied. He looked at the Divine King. The Divine King smiled and did not say anything. He only nodded at it. The figure of light couldn't help but shake his head, still in disbelief. This was truly an unprecedented moment in history. The divine race had always stood at the top of humanity. But today, the divine race had taken an unprecedented path and made an agreement with a human cultivator. The Divine King was willing to put down his pride and make a deal with a human for the sake of the fate of his race. In the entire history of the divine race, this Divine King was probably the only one who could think of such a method and do such a thing. Perhaps he really could change the fate of the divine race. The figure of light was a bit excited and asked, Your Majesty, when do we begin? Right now, the Divine King decisively answered. Gu Qingshan, do you have any questions? The figure of light asked. Time is precious. Let's begin. Gu Qingshan was just as straightforward. The figure of light went silent for a brief moment. Now that it's come to this, put your hand on mine, he told Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan did as he said. A pair of glowing white wings suddenly spread open behind the figure of light's back. Below the sky, above the ruins, the figure of light raised his voice and loudly chanted a divine incantation. The infinite world's apocalypse. The evil order. The kindling of life, the origin of all things, the revolution of living beings. You are the crystallization of civilization, the master of the demon tide, the essence of the demon king's descent come. I summon you to this place on behalf of your lamb, the demon king order, descend. Ho! An invisible gust of wind blew. Heaven and earth returned to silence. Something seemed to have manifested from the unseen world. They didn't have to wait too long. A blood-red UI suddenly appeared in front of Gu Qingshan's eyes. Lines of glowing text appeared on the UI. Welcome, human cultivator. You've received the favor of the Order. The Order will complete loading in 3 seconds. 3, 1. World Apocalypse Online. Kindling, loading complete. Congratulations. With the help of the Order, you shall rebuild the glory of humanity. Gu Qingshan looked at the blood-red UI in front of him. This blood-red UI contained too many memories and memories of his life. Many of them had already passed. He had grown into an excellent sword cultivator. Chapter 872. On top of the ruins. The figure of light, the god of frost, and Luo Bingley all looked at Gu Qingshan. The only thing missing from the 3 coins was the power of the Demon King order. Now it's all up to him. Gu Qingshan stared at the void of space in front of him, seemingly focused on something. He didn't say a word, but his expression slowly became a bit surprised. All of a sudden, a red streak of light appeared out of nowhere and entered his body. What is this? What happened to you? The god of frost couldn't help but ask. Gu Qingshan waved his hand, gesturing that he was fine. Luo Bingley glanced at the god of frost. The god of frost immediately realized and spoke with a stern tone. Gu Qingshan, if you back down now, this king's agreement with you will immediately be voided. The figure of light cut in. Do not worry, your majesty. The order is currently manifesting on him. There won't be any issues. He is only communicating with the order. For the first time, the god of frost scoffed. That's good, but are we going to just wait here? The figure of light replied. We do need to wait for a bit, the god of frost said nothing else. They continued to wait. Gu Qingshan was indeed communicating with the Demon King order. As a veteran who had carried the order twice, Gu Qingshan knew exactly what was going to happen next. The order would examine his personal strength, then activate it accordingly and issue him various missions. As the missions were completed, the Order's functions would be unlocked. Once the Order had accumulated enough soul points, it would upgrade. The upgraded Order would provide its carrier with even more power and functions. This was a mutually reinforcing process, but as the Demon King Order, it would take the majority of the soul points and treat the carrier like a parasite. However, there weren't many people in the entire primordial heaven realm who carried the Order. Once someone did, they would be killed right away. Then, how would the Order deal with such a situation? Gu Qingshan was silently curious. While he was waiting, lines of crimson text appeared on the blood-red UI. The Order is currently performing a full scan on you. Skin detected abnormalities. Your Excellency's unique identity has been discovered. Begin identification. In the void, a blazing red light suddenly appeared. The red light entered Gu Qingshan's body and only dissipated after a few breaths. This was the scene that caused the frost god monarch to cry out. The blood-red words disappeared. Kindling. Voice rang in Gu Qingshan's ears. Venerable envoy of condemnation, we welcome you to fight alongside the Order. The Order will tailor the corresponding combat missions according to your strength, Your Excellency. There seemed to be a hint of intimacy in its voice. Gu Qingshan was stunned. Envoy of condemnation. Wasn't this his card form? Little Dusk gave me a card identity, but I didn't expect to receive the attention of Order here. Thinking back to his past life, there were a few card users that appeared, but he had never heard of them receiving special treatment from Order. It seemed that Xiaoxi's identity played a role. She came from the bygone era, but lost all of her memories, so she was deceived by the divine race and worked for them. If the Order truly viewed the envoy of condemnation so highly, then it could be inferred that the envoy of condemnation was an extraordinary identity during the bygone era. Thinking back on it, card combat should have been classified as mystic type, because cards themselves were existences that couldn't be measured with common sense. Even the large-scale war god system, Water God, before she evolved into World's Apocalypse Online, Human Legion, she was only a card. These thoughts quickly flashed through Gu Qingshan's mind. He inhaled and replied to the order. What should we do now? When you need to converse with me, please refer to me as Kindling until I evolve, the order replied. Very well, Kindling. What should we do now? Gu Qingshan asked, observing the current environment, generating the first quest. The current environment is in a state of equilibrium. Easily breaking it will draw the avatar of a powerful entity that could destroy everything, so the order will temporarily change tactics. The first quest has been generated. Lines of blood-red text slowly appeared on the UI. Quest: Invade the Wraith Realm. Quest description: The primordial Wraith Realm is a place of constant war. Ever since it was destroyed, powerful evil creatures have taken over the fragments of the Wraith Realm. They compete for each other's fragments, desiring to fuse the fragments together to obtain powerful world origin power. To obtain the power to evolve, you must join the battle. Quest objective: Enter the Wraith Realm, join a faction, and win the first battle. Quest reward: Kindling's first function has been activated. Now the quest begins. Special note: in order to become the legendary Demon King of Condemnation, do your best, Your Excellency. Gu Qingshan read through everything in one go. And it's doing my best. Since when did the Demon King order become so easy to talk to? He shook his head, moved his gaze away from the void of space, and looked at the others. Did it go smoothly? The figure of light asked. Gu Qingshan looked at it. This figure of light doesn't know that I'm an envoy of condemnation. Most likely, they only found the angel of condemnation because of the secret connection between the coin and Little Dusk. And I'm only an envoy of condemnation. In other words, the divine race doesn't know about the secret connection between the envoy of condemnation and the order. Gu Qingshan calmed down a bit and replied, Everything went smoothly. Kindling has now issued me the first quest, asking me to go to the Wraith Realm. To the Wraith Realm? Everyone asked at once. Gu Qingshan explained, That's right. The primordial heaven realm is currently under the Soul Shrieker's strict surveillance, so it's not suitable for a large-scale battle. Kindling needs to draw power from battle. That's why I want to go to the Wraith Realm. Join the ranks of the evil creatures and fight. The figure of light spoke. You're human, so you'll be rejected by the evil creatures as soon as you go to the Wraith Realm. That a big problem? Gu Qingshan looked at it and replied. You've been chasing me for so long without being able to catch me. I naturally have a way to deal with that, the Divine King of Frost and Frost asked. What else do you need? I don't need anything for now. Just help me open the gate to the Wraith Realm, Gu Qingshan replied. That's no problem. I've just been to a Wraith Realm fragment not too long ago and looked up the method to enter that Wraith Realm, the figure of light replied. It raised its voice and chanted loudly. Xieqi Realm, the lost abyss of bliss of all evil creatures. Open your gate for me, An invisible gate that gave off a faint light appeared from the void of space. This was the warp gate to the Xieqi Fiend Realm. Then I'll be on my way, Gu Qingshan said. The Divine King of Frost and Frost couldn't help but exclaim, No, you can't go alone. I want to watch over you. The figure of light tried to persuade her. Your Majesty, you're a divinity. If you appear in the Wraith Realm, you'll cause even more trouble. The evil creatures all hate us. They'll surely gather all of their forces to kill you. Gu Qingshan winked at the Divine King and said, Don't worry. Since you've agreed to help me find the Heaven Sword, I'll naturally do what I must. That's right, the human cultivator Luo Bingli. You must protect her well, because she's related to the Heaven Sword's final whereabouts. Don't worry. This king knows what to do. The Divine King of Frost and Frost replied. The figure of light also nodded in agreement. Then I'll be on my way. Saying so, Gu Qingshan's figure had already entered the warp gate and disappeared from the primordial heaven realm. The Divine King of Frost and Frost was stunned. Your Majesty? The figure of light doubtfully looked at him and asked. I just remembered something, the Divine King replied. What is it? The figure of light asked. As you know, when we were first created, we were meant to cooperate with humanity in battle indeed. I know that the figure of light nodded. The Divine King's tone changed a bit. If it's a battle, I'm wondering if we can use this method to win against the desolate race. Your Majesty, you mean? HM, to complete our plan, we must try to help Gu Qing Shan Luo. Bingley silently listened on one side and couldn't help but sigh. At another location, Gu Qing Shan was flying through the void of space. He had used all of his soul points to take on the appearance of the Xie Qi Fiend King. This was a jet-black fiend king with a handsome face. He looked a lot like a human, but had a long, sharp tail on his back. If it weren't for this tail, the Xie Qi Fiend King would even look a bit weak. This appearance made Gu Qing Shan feel a bit uncomfortable. A fiend king with this appearance. I really can't help but feel a bit uneasy. Gu Qing Shan moved his body uneasily, wanting to dispel the feminine feeling around him. He began to recall the last time he came to the Wraith Realm. The last time he came to the Xie Qi Fiend Realm, humanity had already gone extinct. It was the end of the Age of Old. At the time, the Xie Qi Fiend Realm and even the Xie Qi Fiend King's woman had fallen into the bitter-boned Devil King's hands. The Xie Qi Fiend King was nothing but a puppet. While Gu Qing Shan was thinking, a flash of light appeared in front of him. I've arrived at the Xie Qi Fiend Realm. Gu Qing Shan flew towards that flash of light. As soon as he touched the light, the void of space around him faded away. Gu Qing Shan found that he had entered a dark sky and was rapidly falling. He hurriedly stopped his body and let himself descend slowly. Below him was a luxurious castle. This was a very familiar sight. Isn't this the Xie Qi Fiend King's castle? At this point in time, humanity had only just gone through a great war, and the first divinity had only just fallen much earlier than that. I wonder how the Xie Qi Fiend King is doing at this point in time. HM, that's a very important question, since I'm about to impersonate him again. Gu Qing Shan's figure flashed and used ground shrink to appear in front of the castle. He immediately saw an evil fiend. It was the Xie Qi Fiend King. I didn't think I'd run into him as soon as I arrived. The Xie Qi Fiend King was kneeling on a washboard, crying towards a certain location in the castle. I beg you, trust me just this once. I really won't hide any more money. Chapter 873. Looking at the crying Xie Qi Fiend King, Gu Qing Shan couldn't help but feel speechless. This guy, how did he become a Fiend King? At this point, the Xie Qi Fiend King saw Gu Qing Shan. The same black skin, the same handsome face, the same long, spiky tail. I don't know where this guy came from, but he looks exactly the same as me. The Xie Qi Fiend King was stunned and couldn't help but ask, "Who are you?" Gu Qing Shan replied. "Take a guess," the Xie Qi Fiend King shouted. "This king has no siblings. What kind of trick are you trying to pull?" Saying so, he stood up as his presence began to rise. Siblings? This caught Gu Qing Shan's attention. Gu Qing Shan put her index finger on her lips and shushed him, then winked at the Xie Qi Fiend King. HM. The Xie Qi Fiend King was confused. As if the other party had something to tell him, he could only hold back and not attack right away. Gu Qing Shan spoke with a serious expression. "You're already kneeling, but you're standing up. Wouldn't that offend the powerful entity in the castle?" The Xie Qi Fiend King regained his senses. He hurriedly knelt down on the washboard again. Gu Qing Shan. Seems like this guy is hopeless. Perfect. I need a suitable identity to stay in the Wraith Realm. The Xie Qi Fiend King turned around and asked in a low voice, "Tell me, who exactly are you?" Gu Qing Shan sighed. "Although it's embarrassing to say this, I'm still your big brother." The Xie Qi Fiend King angrily shouted. "Bullshit. I have no siblings." Boom! A giant hand descended from above and slammed the Xie Qi Fiend King to the ground. The giant hand scattered and turned into countless flying swords. Several of the flying swords left the hand and stabbed into the Xie Qi Fiend King's limbs, pinning him to the ground. Embark! The Xie Qi Fiend King screamed in pain. Gu Qing Shan slowly walked towards the Xie Qi Fiend King. allowing the hundreds of flying swords to form a pair of wings on his back. Presently, he was already a void-seeing realm cultivator, and his swordsmanship had also advanced to the sword immortal realm. He was far from being comparable to the first time he invaded the devil realm. Tell me, do you have a brother or not? Gu Qingshan looked down at the Xie Qi Fiend King and asked. The Xie Qi Fiend King shouted, I do. I have it. Come, call me Big Brother, Gu Qingshan said. Brother, shout again. Brother, my eldest brother, spare me. At this moment, 7 or 8 guards rushed out of the castle. Gu Qingshan did not raise her head. Among the flying swords floating behind him, a few moon-white sword lights flashed. The guard was slashed by the sword light, and not even his flesh was left behind. Notifications popped up on the bloody interface. Obtain 10 soul points, obtain 7 soul points, obtain 9 soul points. Gu Qingshan glanced at the interface and nodded. The Demon King order was different from the War God UI. For the War God UI, Gu Qingshan would only receive soul points if he killed an enemy who was at least as strong as himself. If the enemy she killed was too weak, the War God UI wouldn't even take soul points from them. But the Demon King order was different. To obtain enough soul points to advance, it was willing to do anything. The smell of blood and commotion in front of the castle drew the attention of many evil creatures. More and more evil creatures were heading here. Gu Qingshan grabbed the void of space and took the Chao Yin sword in her hand. The sword lightly stabbed the Xie Qi Fiend King's throat. Tell me the truth. How many brothers and sisters do you have? Gu Qingshan muttered. Feeling the cold sword chi at his throat, the Xie Qi Fiend King shivered. This guy is ridiculously strong. Just when did I make such a powerful enemy? It can't be helped, my life is in his hands. How can I not lower my head? Fortunately, the Xie Qi Fiend King was also a Fiend King who had been through a lot, so this wasn't the first time he was in a situation like this. The Xie Qi Fiend King smiled brightly. You're right, I actually have quite a few brothers and sisters. Gu Qingshan scowled. Ah? Why do I remember that you only have a brother? That's right, I was wrong. I have a brother. The Xie Qi Fiend King hurriedly followed up. Gu Qingshan nodded in satisfaction, but he pushed the sword a bit deeper, almost cutting through the Xie Qi Fiend King's skin. The Xie Qi Fiend King hurriedly shouted, Big brother, you're my real brother. Please forgive me, HM. Since you can't even recognize me as your brother, I'll punish you by making you apologize to me. Only when I'm satisfied will I forgive you, Gu Qingshan said. The Xie Qi Fiend King sighed in relief. He was quite good at apologizing. Big brother, we haven't seen each other for so long. It's normal for me to not recognize you right away. Don't be angry, big brother. I'll be welcoming you tonight. Let's have a good drink. If you're still angry, just punish me with a few more drinks. I won't refuse, big brother. The Xie Qi Fiend King smiled and tried to flatter Gu Qingshan. At this point, quite a few evil creatures had already arrived to witness this scene. More and more evil creatures came to watch. Quite a few evil creatures also came out from the castle and surrounded the two of them. Very quickly, all the evil creatures noticed something. The Xie Qi Fiend King had a powerful brother. At this point, Gu Qingshan put her sword away and crouched down in front of the Xie Qi Fiend King. I'm very curious about something. Big brother, please ask, the Xie Qi Fiend King replied. Why was it you, my little brother, who obtained the Xie Qi Fiend realm and not me? Gu Qingshan asked. The Xie Qi Fiend King was surprised. That's a very imaginative question. But then, I can't come up with anything. While the Xie Qi Fiend King was hesitating, his eyes met with Gu Qingshan's. In the other party's eyes, countless sword shadows surged ceaselessly. An eye attack technique? The Xie Qi Fiend King's heart skipped a beat. He was still a Fiend King, so he still had his eyes. There had never been a weak spell technique that could be unleashed using one's eyes, and it was basically unavoidable. He finally understood how terrifying the other party was. Even the entity inside the castle might not be able to defeat this guy. At this moment, the Xie Qi Fiend King felt an intense sense of death. Under the pressure of danger, he was able to perform at a much higher level than normal and shouted, Big brother, did you forget? The Xie Fiend realm was clearly yours before. You went to conquer other fiend realms and told me to watch over it for you. Before you left, all was quiet. The evil creatures exchanged glances. Something like that actually happened? Gu Qingshan nodded in satisfaction. He then asked, "Do you really not know what's happening inside the castle?" The Xie Fiend King smirked. "That's the fiendish freedom. I can't do anything about it." Gu Qingshan pondered a bit and looked at him. He patted the Xie Fiend King's shoulder and said, "Little brother, you truly are a disgrace to our family." A sword gleam flashed. The Xie Fiend King's head fell off his body and rolled to one side. Before he died, the Xie Fiend King still had a bit of confusion on his face. Why did he kill me? He clearly knew that I was nothing but a puppet waiting to die. There was no reason for him to kill me. So why did he do it? Unfortunately, he'll never be able to understand this. Following the Xie Fiend King's death, a notification came into Gu Qingshan's ears. He looked at the kindling UI. Lines of blood-red text appeared on the UI one after another. You've been recognized by the Xie Fiend King in front of everyone. You've obtained a new identity, Xie Fiend King's older brother, thus joining the Xie Fiend realm. You've killed the Xie Fiend King. You've won the battle. Quest completed. The first function of the kindling UI has been activated. From now on, you may use the primary grocery store. At this point, the blood-red text abruptly disappeared. Following that, kindling, continued frowny face due to your esteemed identity. This grocery store will be closed immediately. This order has converted the first function into the center of the card. From now on, all functions will be displayed here. Please draw the card for the first time. Your Excellency, Gu Qingshan silently asked. What should I do? Kindling replied. If your Excellency is trustworthy, I will draw the card for you. If your Excellency wishes to play with it yourself, I will arrange it, Gu Qingshan replied. Go ahead. Thank you for your trust, Your Excellency. I have made meticulous preparations according to your card rank, Kindling replied. A lapis card appeared on the blood-red UI. A pitch-black armor was drawn on the front of the card, and boundless black mist lingered on it. The armor exuded a sense of majesty and mystery. I can tell this is a good item. But now that the Xie Fiend King had just died and the evil creatures were all over the place, Gu Qingshan didn't have time to carefully examine this card. He put the card away first, stood up, and told the silent evil creatures, "Those who want to watch the show back off, don't blame me if you die next." Hordes of devils hurriedly retreated. This ominous fiend even killed his own little brother. Who knows what else he's going to do next? But a few evil creatures still held onto their own strength and didn't retreat just yet. Gu Qingshan looked into the castle. A cruel smile appeared on his jet-black face. "Cruel Bone Devil King, why aren't you coming out yet?" Gu Qingshan's voice resounded across the entire area. That's right. When the Xie Fiend King begged for mercy, he had already noticed something being spied on. This spying was infused with powerful dark elemental presence, filled with malice and malice. "With just you," a female voice full of provocation resounded. The female voice continued. "Seems like I'll have to kill him myself." Her voice suddenly became lower, as if she was stopped by someone. Gu Qingshan only smiled and said nothing. At this point, another lazy voice resounded. "Are you really his brother? I don't care about what happened between you two brothers. Seeing how much strength you have, get out of this wraith realm, and I won't kill you." The evil creatures all clamored. It really is the cruel Bone Devil King. So this place has already been taken over by him. Even the fiendess is now his subordinate. But then, why didn't he just kill the Xie Fiend King? The evil creatures all began to speculate. So that's why the evil creatures all exchanged indescribable glances. Things like hats are always interesting, especially among evil creatures. That makes sense. Think about it from another perspective. No wonder this Xie Fiend King's brother said that the Xie Fiend King was the shame of their family. No wonder he killed his little brother. Get out of this wraith realm? No, that won't do. Gu Qingshan slowly spoke. With a single thought, the two giant wings of swords behind his back spread out, turning into streaks of light that flew through the air. Intense sword-infused wind rose to the sky. Cruel Bone, Devil King. Leave your life and soul. They're both my food. I am the true Fiend King of this Wraith realm. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.